The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area.
So they're like,
got it?
first of all, they hate small talk.
All those
They're
crises
all
I
about
quietly
big
put out,
ideas. They're
you
all
have
about
no
grand
idea.
things, right? So like, I want to be big, I want to think deep, I want to understand quantum mechanics. Like, I don't want to do this conventional life stuff. They tend to actually come across as brilliant or impressive when you first meet them, but they evoke a reaction in other people, and they're actually...
Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now. The mission area is yours.
Wind and thunder watches over this land.
Good medicine. Leave me, darkness. I have tagged a foe. Hunt them.
Feels like the spirit of the city just
Never trust Magneto. You're thunderstruck. Just another soul. Lightning strike.
You've captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
More powerful yet.
This is real firepower!
Dark magic. One couldn't be without the other. They will strike, and I suspect it will be soon.
Glory's almost yours. Control all.
Dress! The doctor is in. I'm opening a portal. Pentagram of Paral. Such newfound power.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
The Dark Child is ready to awaken.
You get a web! You get a web! You get a web!
Out, dark magic.
Hold still. I'm trying to help.
I would knit the dimensions back together if it were within my power.
Oh,
30 seconds before you attack.
sure, by all means. Oh, God.
Aurora, I sense a strong magical lineage within you.
There were indeed witches and mages among my ancestors, Stephen.
The battle starts in 5.
like quite
4,
charming and charismatic.
3, 2, 1.
The
All you need to do is capture the
other
mission
thing
area.
is that they're
Got it?
incredibly intelligent, quick-witted, kind of likable, right? So when people meet them for the first time, assuming the social anxiety gets out of the way, oftentimes people are initially impressed by the career turns. They're like, wow, like this person's really solid, like they're really great. And so the other characteristic of a Puer Eternus, which we've kind of already talked about, is that they have a lot of potential. So when people meet them, they're like, wow, this kid is so smart. This kid is kind of going places. Oftentimes they'll have bursts of creative energy.
I am ready to
But then
put
the
on a
cycle
show.
that they sort of fall into is that even though they're like, they kind of come off as strong, they open, like, you know, as soon as the race starts and they start running, they like do really well. Inevitably, they fall. So like their ability to follow through, their ability to live up to expectations, their ability to deliver on expectations falls absolutely flat. Okay? And so this is what the Puer Eternus is. And I want to share with y'all what they were kind of...
Oh, I'm not interested. Thank you, though.
Okay.
The doctor is in. I'm opening a portal.
Okay, so let's take a look at this, okay?
Capture the mission area.
Ah.
So, they generally do not like sports, which require patience and long training. So the Puer Eternus, in the negative sense of the word, is usually very impatient by disposition. So that such sports do not appeal to them. Okay. So here's another feature, right? They do not like conventional situations. They ask deep questions and go straight for truth. So on the contrary, he lives in a continual sleepy haze. And that too is a typical adolescent characteristic.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The sleepy, undisciplined,
I don't disagree with you, but I am not interested in buying any of that.
mind wandering indiscriminately, so that sometimes one feels inclined to pour a bucket of cold water over his head. The sleepy daze is only an outer aspect. However, if you can penetrate it, you will find a lively fantasy life is being cherished within. So this is what happens when you meet a Puer.
I am
Okay?
strengthened.
Okay, I
So
am
they're
not
like,
listening to any
Your
of that.
team's capture progress has passed the halfway point.
The ocean shall claim you once more.
Dangerous, dog!
The Sorcerer Supreme returns.
Again!
They've almost got it.
Good medicine.
Namor has called for allies from the depths.
This is real firepower!
I still want attacking
Keep
the
fighting
wall.
until we have a winner. I am ready to put on a show.
Okay, why is somebody looking at this guy? Thank you.
Dark magic. Not worth wasting magic on you. I am strengthened for
Oh, goodbye, good night.
Leave me, darkness. Wild creatures have risen from the realm below.
Born again! Armed and dangerous!
By the eye of
Keep going.
Hurricane incoming!
That was
my
a bad
life
order.
is in peril. Thank you.
This is real firepower!
I purge the
Glory is almost yours. Control lost. You'll have to keep fighting until we have a winner.
Ow.
Open your eyes. Reality is but an illusion.
After all these years, saving the world still hasn't gotten old. 30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Storm, hope you brought your heaviest weather.
Manifest your soul sword and let's get going. Cross timelines make for strange allies. Who do we trust?
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it? What has Victor gotten us into this time?
Some uninvited
I've always been a
guests.
heavy hitter.
I suppose that helps.
Oh my, invisible?
These beasts of yours disgrace me.
Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now. I've got you covered. I am ready to put on a show.
Collecting cosmic energy.
Hurricane incoming!
Phony.
Mission area is yours.
Feel the pull! Turn around, you
I'll patch you up.
That's much
enemy in
better.
front of us!
A time waste.
This power.
Control lost. I'll fight for my family until the end.
Don't mind me. I'm just dying.
The Dark Child is ready to awaken.
Namor called it back. They ugly.
I've always been a heavy hitter.
I can't say I'm shocked to roll up. Feel the pull! Namor keeps strange company.
Oh, see that?
Force burst. Your team's capture blocker has passed the halfway point. That's much better. Vortex field. Stands with you. Psionics first. Clearly, you needed some help.
Namor has called for allies from the dead. A timely boost.
They've almost got it.
Some uninvited guests. I can't say I'm shocked to roll up.
Feel the pull. And this is clear.
Got you! Charge!
I don't give up so easily. You've captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
I'm This is real firepower!
Disappear! I am ready to put on a show.
Allies from the dead.
The area's almost yours. Psionic surge. I'll gladly
take the win. I'll put this to good use. Force burst! I got you covered.
Power here, people!
Survive this!
Another epic victory! Big win!
Ooh.
Three lines of math that separates my life as a man from my life as an unfeeling ghost. Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Rick. I'll try to remember to shut off the fertilizer. Actually, I think it shuts off automatically once your brain is liquid. Don't know, don't care. Pull me out. Hey, pull me out. Can you hear me? No, I can't. Why not? Because the code you just uploaded wasn't actually my portal gun formula. It was a virus giving me full control over the brainalyzer. What are you talking about? This is a memory. You can't alter details of a memory. True, but you can alter anything you want about a totally fabricated origin story. It's a trap! Abort! I'm still in his Shoney's. Repeat! We never left his Shoney's! Mission accomplished, boys. Pull me out. Roger that. Okay, have fun in what's left of my brain. I'm gonna transfer to yours. Oh, there's not enough room for all my genius, so I'm leaving you with my favorite wicker furniture, my desire to play the trumpet, my tentative plans to purchase a hat, 6 years of improv workshops. Comedy comes in threes. It's a trap! Abort! We never left it! Another day, another dollar. My great instinct creature or what? Congratulations. We highly commend. Always wait for permission to... That's my motto. One thing still perplexes. Why would Rick Sanchez turn himself in? Well, I'm just a dumbass bug, but it's possible Rick knew he'd be interrogated at this facility where we not only keep our most wanted, but our most sensitive data. Anyone here with level 9 access? I don't know. I'm just gonna go take it out. Is it cool if I use the level 9 bathroom? But what's the level 9 master access code again? Oh, geez. 8-3. Hi, Rick. You okay?
I say, fuck you. My grandpa was my hero. You killed him because you were jealous of him. It's pretty obvious from the haircut. So do what you want to me. Let my brother go. You already No, I know it's your fault. I don't pronounce Rick. I never have. I was just trying to protect my sister. I can have a normal life. You can't have a Rick shows up. Rick's fake. Right is wrong. All he knows that you know nothing and he knows everything. Well, he's not a villain, Summer, but he shouldn't be your hero. Or, like, the super fucked up Don. Not the ghost of his
What? Mama's what? What? What?
First of all, they hate small talk. They're all about big ideas. They're all about grand things, right? So like, I want to be big. I want to think deep. I want to understand quantum mechanics. Like, I don't want to do this conventional life stuff. They tend to actually come across as brilliant or impressive when you first meet them, but they evoke a reaction in other people and oftentimes in themselves of like wanting to pour a bucket over your head. You get frustrated with them so easily, right? Because they're big talkers, but they just don't show up in the way that, you know, you actually need to live up to things in life. So here's a couple of things. Does that kind of make sense? I'm going to just check in with chat real quick. I'm reading from the text, Mary Louise von Franz's text. Great question. Okay.
Which hero do you think you want to be today?
Okay. There's one passage that... Okay.
Now,
So, how does
who am I
someone
gonna
kind of
banish
get
from this
in
match?
this situation? And this is where I want to talk for a second about this cherished fantasy life. So the basic problem with Puer Aeternus is they have big dreams, right? They have big ideas. They're incredibly intelligent. They've got large goals. But anytime they start to exist in life or try to live life, they are inevitably severely disappointed. So anytime they imagine an experience, like the experience is great, but the reality of the experience is like drab and disappointing in comparison. So they may have ideas to create like a fantasy novel, or like, I'm gonna write a TV show, or I'm gonna create a video game, I wanna become a programmer, I have this great vision. And the moment that they start to engage in life and actually try to do it, the version that they encounter in real life is like a shadow of it. And so then they sort of like, they have
your
this
hero.
vision in their head, but
Or
the real
villain.
life just
I'm not
doesn't
judging.
line up. And Marie-Louise von Franz even talks about this in terms of relationships, okay? So let's take a look at this. There is another typical form of this same disturbance. In this case, the image of the mother, the image of the perfect woman who will give everything to a man and who is without any shortcomings, is sought in every woman. He is looking for a mother goddess, so that each time he is fascinated by a woman, he has later to discover that she is an ordinary human being. Once he has been intimate with her, the whole fascination vanishes, and he turns away disappointed, only to project the image anew onto one woman after another.
It would be
Okay?
wise to
So this is another kind of feature of this. I think not another. This encapsulates like the existence of a puer aeternus.
Someday I'd like to see Talokan.
They have sort of this
I have brought
idea
part of it to
of
the
like
surface.
a perfect version of things, right? They
might be
don't
surprised
actually have a
where.
whole lot of
My war
experience,
against the
but
surface
they're
world will
caught
have to
up with
wait.
like, okay,
For
like
now.
like this is in my mind. There's like a perfect woman out there for me, and the moment that they start to engage with reality, reality is inevitably disappointing.
2,
And so oftentimes what happens
need to
is
do is
like
capture the mission
they'll-
area.
and this
Got it?
happens in relationships. I think nowadays we see like other kind of permutations of this. So I think like pornography and incelism is also connected to puer aeternus. So if you look at a lot of like incel forums or like red pill forums or things like that, they have this like vision of the perfect woman, someone who's hot, someone who's subservient, someone who's there for me, like not a real human being. They have a fantasy archetype of something. And then as they go looking for that fantasy archetype, they fail to find it over and over and over again. And so here's what the cycle of puer aeternus actually looks like. Okay? So this is where, like, you know, people are saying they put women on a pedestal. I think this is why I kind of bring it up. I actually think that that is not correct. This is exactly what I think is important. So it is not that they put women on a pedestal. They put life on a pedestal. This is not just about women. This is, I think, the mistake, and this is where I think why we sort of fail to fix this problem, because it's about way more than women. They put life on a pedestal. So this is what the cycle kind of looks like, okay? So I'm a person, and I have a vision of life. And then what happens is I engage in life. And then inevitably,
We are undefeatable!
grueling.
Behold the god of thunder!
So, and over here, you're filled with excitement, potential. But the reality of it never really, like, lines up. And then you end up feeling dejected. Lost of motivation.
Keep going.
Oftentimes what will happen here is that they will encounter some kind of obstacle. So as you engage with it, there's some sort of obstacle that comes up. And so, like, you can work really hard, but, like, then something comes up. I want to show you all. Let me see if I can find this.
It appears some
We'll get
timelines
to this
feature a very
second.
different version of me.
A nice deep breeze.
Okay. If a man pulls out of this youthful neurosis, then it is through work. There are, however, some misunderstandings in this connection. For the puer aeternus can work, as can all primitives or people with a
team's
weak
capture
ego
progress
complex,
has passed the
when
halfway point.
fascinated or in a state of great enthusiasm. Then he can work 24 hours at a stretch or even longer, until he breaks down. But what he cannot do is to work on a dreary, rainy morning when work is boring and one has to kick oneself into it. That is the one thing that puer aeternus cannot manage and will use any kind of excuse to avoid. So they're capable of brilliance.
We
They're
are
capable
ready to
of
put on a
hard
show!
work. They're capable of sweat and toil. But the moment that things become difficult, or, and this is what's really interesting, the moment that things
A nice
become
deep
boring, the moment that things become drab, then they lose their ability to work. And here's the other really wild thing. They can even do incredible things, okay? Let me see if I can find this. I want to read y'all one other passage. Okay. They generally do not like sports which require patience and long training. For the puer aeternus in the negative sense of the word is usually a very impatient disposition, so that such sports do not appeal to them. I know a young man, a classical example of puer aeternus, who did a tremendous amount of mountaineering, but so much hated carrying a rucksack that he preferred to train himself even to sleep in the rain or snow, or wrap himself up in a silk raincoat, and with a kind of yoga breathing was able to sleep out of doors. He also trained himself to go practically without food, simply in order to not have to carry any weight. In a way, he led a very heroic existence, just in order to not be bound to go to a hut or carry a rucksack. The one thing he absolutely refuses is responsibility for anything, or to carry the weight of a situation. So this is what happens in a puer aeternus. They're even capable of heroism, but what they can't do is ordinary. They can be magnificent, and even their ego thrives on the idea of fucking normies. When they go hiking and mountaineering, they have to carry rucksacks, pack their food, pitch a tent. I am not going to be a normie. I am going to be I'm going to train myself through yogic methods. I'm going to do all of this stuff. I'm going to like create this weird artificial hardship. I would rather be a heroic, like kind of idiot. Like you can just carry a bag, bro. Like you don't need to have this intense yogic breathing. But the life is like their life is built on this fantasy. And this is what's really confusing about it, is that they can absolutely work incredibly hard. They can accomplish amazing things. And if you're a puer aeternus, you know this, right? That's where everyone sees the potential coming from. You know that you've done things that ordinary human beings cannot do. But the reason that you are stuck in life is because you cannot bring yourself to be ordinary. The only option that you've got is extraordinary. Make sense? So I want to show you all. I want to talk. And this is what's really confusing about it, is that they can absolutely work incredibly hard. They can accomplish amazing things. And if you're a execute that's where everyone sees the potential coming from. You know that you've done things that ordinary human beings cannot do. But the reason that you are stuck in life is because you cannot bring yourself to be ordinary. The only option that you've got is extraordinary. Make sense? So I want to show you all. I want to talk about like what the one other concept, okay? So, what a puer aeternus fears more than anything else is the loss of potential. So I kind of think about puer aeternus as, so this is kind of, right? So like there's so much potential, right? Like you're a gifted kid. You can accomplish anything that you want. You have this weird heroism within you, like where like if you can find the right circumstances, then you can become this like demigod tier being. You can become something like an Elon Musk, right? Because you're just as smart as them. You can become a billionaire, and in the right circumstances, if you can bring yourself to your heroism, you can accomplish great things. But the problem is that anytime you try to engage in life, you don't engage in this fantasy. It doesn't turn out to be the dream that you had. It's this like drab existence. And what really holds puer aeterni back is actually this loss of potential. So I sort of think about puer aeterni as a pluripotent stem cell. So this stem cell can be anything. It can be a neuron, it can be a cardiac muscle, it can be an astrocyte, it can be a liver cell, it can be like a beta cell in the pancreas, it can be anything. The problem for puer aeternus is once you make a choice to differentiate, you lose the potential of everything else. So the moment that you make a commitment, this is the problem. Making a commitment means sacrificing all of the
We are
potential.
undefeatable!
And this is something they cannot do, right? So like there's all kinds of language that I will hear about this, like, oh, what should I major in? But if I major in this, if I date this person,
Judge,
if I major in this, then what if it's the wrong choice? What if it doesn't work out? What if I don't like it? And they're so paralyzed by being trapped in the drab
ready to put on a
existence
show.
of reality, right? Like, oh my God, if I have to debase myself to become a pleb and make small talk in a water cooler in a cubicle as a sheeple, I cannot tolerate that at all. So they're completely, they're pathologically unable to make a commitment or make a sacrifice. And so what they end up doing is swimming around in a state of pluripotent stem cells, never making a commitment because they're terrified of closing off the doors of life. They're terrified of losing options and being trapped. That is what they fear more than anything else. And if you are pathologically afraid of being trapped, you can never make a choice. So they sort of end up swimming around in this partial life, which I think this is a great example of this, okay? So, which H.G. Daines described as the provisional life. That is, the strange attitude and feeling that one is not yet in real life. For the time being, one is doing this or that. But whether it is a woman or a job, it is not yet what is really wanted. And there's always the fantasy that sometime in the future, the real thing will come about. The one thing dreaded throughout by such a type of man is to be bound to anything whatever. There is a terrific fear of being the singular human being that one is. There is always the fear of being caught in a situation from which it is impossible to slip out. Okay? Make sense? So what ends up happening is the pueriternist ends up living something called a marginal life. It is not a real life. It is not a full life. It is waiting. It's like in the pre-gate area, I'm not going to board a plane, right? So like imagine you're sitting in an airport. There's 100 gates that planes are sitting there that are going to 100 destinations. But the problem for the pueriternist is the moment that I get on one plane, I'm flying to another destination, and that means that the other 99 possibilities are taken away from me. So they end up swimming around in the boarding area and never really committing to anything, never really accomplishing anything. And so they stay in this like transitional zone for a long time. What this practically looks like is they will have these bursts of interest and activity. Remember, they can work for 24 hours at a stretch. I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to make a video game. I'm going to write a TV show. I'm going to make a book. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to learn the piano. And so they sort of have all of this like vim and vigor for a thing. But then inevitably what happens is they have some kind of obstacle. Something gets in the way. And then they tend to give up. They leave it alone. They go back to their fantasy world, which include things like video games, social media, pornography, whatever. And then their desire to do something great happens again. And then they pick up their next project. So what they end up living is like, 10 steps down a 100-step road, like in 15 different directions. So they have all of these like half-finished projects, things like that, and they can never like come to fruition on any given thing. And this is what a marginal life is. They end up sort of existing and continuing to exist with a lot of potential without ever actually sort of creating any kind of actualization. And I love this phrase. So, sometimes the way that psychoanalysts will describe this is something called a failure to constellate. So what does that mean? So a constellation is a collection of stars that forms a picture, right? So you've got like this star, this star, this star, and then we tie things together, and then we end up with something that is greater than the individual stars. But with a pueriternist, they never form a picture of their life. They never actually like create a synthesized life that carries value. It's just one random star over here, one random star over here, one random star over here, and it never like turns into a real full lived life. It becomes a
Where you
marginal
going?
life, or it stays a marginal life. Okay? Now, there are a couple of other things that we need to talk about. So, what do Puer Eterni really, really, really hate? So here's what the cycle of a Puer Eternus looks like, okay?
Oh,
So,
what?
first thing, cycle of a Puer Eternus
Even
looks
small
like, okay?
victories are worth celebrating.
So, first thing is they have a fantasy life. They have a failure to commit. And the reason they have a failure to commit is because this cuts off
The god of thunder!
Like, the problem with making a decision in life
Holy
is
fuck.
that you lose the opportunity to make other decisions. And so then what happens is they're kind of in this, like, perpetual loading zone.
Easily.
But life is moving along. And so since they can't commit to anything, this is what's really scary, this is what's really unfortunate in life. Even if you don't make commitments, life will show up at your doorstep and force you to choose. So then they are forced into a choice.
That's much better.
So they get some job, right? Like, you gotta pay your bills
We
somehow.
are
So they kind of get, like,
undefeatable.
reluctantly thrust through a particular door. But that's not a career, right? They're not making a choice that I'm gonna be this, do this for the rest of my life. In fact, they hate their job. Their job is beneath them. But they're forced into a choice. Then what they do is they half-ass it, right? Because it's not this fantasy that, like, they're like, I'm meant for more than, like, stacking boxes. This does not take advantage of my brilliance. So they end up kind of half-assing it.
Your team's capture progress is halfway.
Okay. So as they half-ass it, the next thing that happens is it is clearly less than their fantasy,
Executioner!
right? It's like, this is like not the greatness that I live for. And since it's less than their fantasy, they start to long for their fantasy. Right? So I end up being what I hate more than anything else, which is an ordinary human being, but in my mind, I have great, great, great dreams. So the more ordinary my life is, the more that I hate it. I'm certainly not going to commit to an ordinary life. That's a terrible idea. I'm going to long for a fantasy. And so since I'm longing for fantasy, but I don't know, I can't, like, pick one, right? I can't go all in for something. There's no actual, like, initiation of activity. Right? And this sort of creates something like procrastination. They're not going to quit their job and actually move to Hollywood. And then what happens is they're in the perpetual loading zone. So they get stuck in this cycle. Where they're like, since I can't commit to anything because I'm terrified of the loss of possibilities, right? Because what if I commit to the wrong thing? And then the other problem is when I do try to make a commitment, why don't I commit? I can start things. But when I start things, it's not
No
what
way.
I thought. Right? The actual, like, process of building a video game is fucking boring. Like, making
wasn't even
cool
able to
spells
do-
is really neat. Like, coding things and fixing bugs and debugging is not neat. So there's this fundamental discrepancy that prevents them from, like, anytime they try to move forward in life, they're disappointed. And they're terrified if they move forward. Well, like, what if I end up in a life that's disappointing? I don't want that. I don't want to be trapped.
Oh.
They need escape
Okay.
more than anything else. They need freedom to have their fantasies become realities. And that's what they're terrified of. Okay.
Another epic victory.
I'm going to check in with y'all. Okay, because then we're going to get into a couple of things. A couple of other features. Playing games is fun. Making them is boring. What do they need then? Okay, very good. Oh, whoops.
I love making
Some chats over here. Okay. So, next up. Okay. So now what we're going to do is go over a couple of like psychological steps that a puer aeternus tends to take. Okay, so we already talked about how nothing is ever good enough, right? They have difficulty with commitments. They have difficulty saying goodbye to possibilities. There are a couple of other psychological things that they do. The first is they have this belief that in the perfect circumstances, my perfection will come out. Right? That the road to living my dreams is not hard, drab work for 10 or 15 years with a possibility that it never will happen. The right way to have my fantasy become a reality is to find the perfect circumstances. So if I can find the right job, if I can find the right friends, if I can just find something that brings this 24 hours of manic hard work out, like I know I can do it in the right circumstances. So what they go doing is hunting for circumstances over and over and over again that will bring out their perfection. The second thing that they tend to do is blame their circumstances, right? So if bringing my brilliance out requires circumstances, the perfect set of circumstances, because I did it for a day and all the stars aligned and I was able to do it for a day, what they end up doing is blaming other people. Because, oh, like, the game was working great, but then, like, this person showed up, and then I had to do all this extra work, and, like, something else happened. There's a lot of blaming of circumstances. And here's the really the craziest thing that they blame as a circumstance is themselves. They blame prior you. So this is what's really important. We may think that this is taking responsibility. It's not taking responsibility. Because if you took responsibility for your past mistakes, you would change now. You would actually correct them. But they don't correct their mistakes. What they do is blame prior them as a circumstance. Oh, if I had made the right choice back then, I wouldn't be in this situation. But that doesn't mean they make the right choice today. Right? So this is what's really interesting is like there's this weird self-blame without responsibility. So they blame prior them for creating the shitty life that I have today. Or they'll do things like, I don't know if this kind of makes sense, but like, you know, they'll say like, oh, I never learned how, my parents didn't teach me this. I missed the boat on that. Right? Because so now if you think about it, oh, like I never had a girlfriend in high school, never kissed a girl in college, never had sex. Now I'm 25. Now I can't do any of that. Like I've missed the boat. So if you really think about it, they're not taking responsibility for their situation. They're blaming their circumstances for their inability to bring their fantasies to life. It's too late for them, which is the absolute absolution, the absolute absolution of responsibility. Does that make sense? No, because now it's too late. So, like, I certainly don't need, like, normally when you're behind in life, the way to catch up is through an excessive amount of drab, dreary-ass work. Boring shit after boring shit after boring shit, day after day, year after year. That's actually how you put together your life. No. But the thought of that is so terrifying, I would rather wear the safety blanket of it's impossible for me to fix my life. Classic puer. Okay? So, the next thing is that they tend to be fragile. They have an image of themselves that is fragile. So oftentimes, one of the circumstances that they can't, the reason that they fail to succeed, and this is what's really scary as a psychiatrist, so I see this a lot, is they will point to some physical health or mental health thing that is the reason why they can't do something. So, oh yeah, like my depression is so bad, I've been traumatized, I have an addiction, therefore I cannot. My stomach hurts, I have IBS, I've got this weird autoimmune disease, I've got chronic Lyme, and this is what's so hard about this. As a psychiatrist, I will be the first to say that any of those conditions can be debilitating. But they will use the condition, which may be genuinely debilitating, as an excuse right? So when I work with people in my office, like one of the first things that I have to solve for them is just because you have a disadvantage, there is a lot of drab, dreary work, right? Like going to fucking Alcoholics Anonymous meetings 3 times a week, coming to therapy, like, you know, changing your social situation, deleting contacts from your phone, grinding, going to places that make you feel uncomfortable, but they don't want to do all of those little steps. They would rather just go to some psychedelic retreat and be cured, like, or just suffer and say it's unsolvable. The one thing they will never do is the hard work. So there's a certain fragility to them that they actually hold on to. They prioritize.
I am ready to put on
Okay.
a show.
Next thing that happens is that they have a defensive arrogance. Let's see if I can find this.
Whoa! Holy shit. Okay, I don't know what to do here.
In addition, there is an arrogant attitude toward other people due to both an inferiority complex and false feelings of superiority. Such people also usually have great difficulty in finding the right kind of job, for whatever they find is never quite right or quite what they wanted. There is always a hair in the soup. The woman is also never quite the right woman.
Always the
She is a
Spider-Man
nice girlfriend,
players.
but there's always a but which prevents marriage or any kind of definite commitment. And this is not just true of like romantic relationships, it's true of even a career. A hair in the soup is, I think, the perfect example of their experience in life. There's a whole bowl of soup that can actually be delicious, but there's a hair in it. I can't just take the hair out and keep eating. I can't be grateful that at least I'm getting soup that's pretty tasty. The moment that I find the hair, it's gone. So they have this weird, like, defensive ego, right? Where they need to be greater than other people. And this is where the rucksack story comes back, right? So this idea that, like, I would rather than be a pleb and just carry around a bag and have to like shop and pack and roll up the tent every day and unroll the tent every day. Rather than doing the dreary labor, I have this like idea of I'm going to learn a deep yogic breathing technique that allows me to transcend
Oh, that's right. We have
the bounds of ordinary humanity.
2, 3.
I will be great or I will be nothing at all.
Including which
all or
side
nothing
you're on.
cheese.
And the really scary thing is that since they long for this like exceptionalism, the world that we live in today gives us many, many opportunities for it that like didn't exist before. So now what we're seeing is puer aeterni get addicted to video games. Because I may be a
The fuck is
noob
that
and have
term?
some dead-end job, but I'm still terrified to go to college. I may be a puer aeterni get addicted to video games. Exist before. So now what we're seeing is puer aeterni get addicted to...
What the fuck is that? Does he... Did he explain it at some point and I missed it? What the fuck does that mean? Back to town.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Why anyone would do this? The reason anyone would do this, if they could, which they can't,
Wait,
would be because
okay.
they could.
Subtitles.
that like didn't exist before. So now what we're seeing is puer aeterni get...
What the fuck is that?
Where are you guys going?
The battle starts in 5, 4,
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
addicted to video games.
Before we had
Because
powers,
I may be
we
a
had
noob
power.
and have some dead-end job, but I'm still terrified to go to college because what if I major in the wrong thing? Then 4 years from now, I've done all of this work. This is what they're also terrified of. Doing a lot of work that doesn't pay off. The idea of wasting time is so terrifying to them that they never end up making a commitment, and they end up wasting time again and again and again and again, right? So they end up creating the life which is exactly what they're terrified of.
Self-fulfilling
So they
prophecy.
can't make commitments.
Is there a syringe of mysterious
And now what's happened is we have things like video games, which allow us to have if we have if we have an inferiority complex and a paradoxical feeling of superiority, what am I going to do? I'm going to smurf in video games. I'm not going to actually do the grinding to get better. I'm going to stomp on noobs. Or they will do the grinding to get better. Right? I'll play this game over and over and over again and feel myself be exceptional, but I'm not going to fucking write a paper about, theology in the 15th century.
Yeah.
That is beneath me.
Well,
It is
not
for the
beneath me,
plebs.
but that's boring.
So video games are a great escape. I think we're seeing this with pornography too, where there's this idealization, right? Like in pornography, we see all the pieces. We see fantasy. We see a life of fantasy. We see that the real world, right? So, the biggest problem with incels is not that they're alone, it's that they want to date someone who's a 10 out of 10. They're not willing to date a 1 out of 10. Right? There are lots of people out there, there are lots of women out there who are lonely, but incels feel superior to them, even though they're alone. So there's this weird, paradoxical kind of thing where, I feel superior to people even though I'm below them. And that's what we know, is that narcissism is rooted in insecurity. So we're seeing that technology is really activating and allowing the puer aeternus complex to really propagate. And we have a whole generation of puer aeterni. So now the question becomes, okay, if you're trapped in this cycle, how do you fix it? Okay? So let's talk about this. Okay. Jung spoke of one cure, work. And having said that, he has hesitated for just a minute and thought, is it really as simple as that? Is that just the one cure? Can I put it that way? But work is the one disagreeable word which no puer aeternus likes to hear. Okay?
Is he...
So how do you fix this problem? Aeternus.
Maybe he did explain it. Puer aeternus. Okay. What is happening? Puer aeternus. Eternal which just ring this level. If you're responsible. Oh, Peter Pan syndrome. Okay. That makes sense.
Likes to hear. Okay? So how do you fix this problem? There's one central thing that prevents a puer aeternus from actually paradoxically living up to their potential. And that is that they are unable to make sacrifices. They are unable to make commitments. Right? So the whole problem of being a pluripotent stem cell is the moment that I choose to major in something, something may not work out. And so if you want to get out of this complex, you will notice that in your mind, if you're someone who's trapped in this complex, what you will notice is that you're always looking at the upside, always looking at the upside, always looking at the upside, never wanting to pay the downside, never wanting to pay the cost. And the one thing that you can never do is pay the cost without the gain. So puer aeterni want to see a guarantee of the value of their efforts before they ever begin. But the world doesn't work that way, which is why they struggle so much. Right? So I've worked with puer aeterni who are like, I'm happy to get a job at a company, but I don't want an entry-level position. I want a strategic position where my ideas will be respected. They want to start at they won't work at a job, but they will absolutely start a company. right? The other thing about starting a company, and then even if the company requires them to make commitments, then the company will fall apart. But as long as they can do it as a side hustle, as long as it doesn't restrict their potential, they can do anything. And this is the problem with life. Building a life means giving up your potential. Generally speaking, that's what we do. This is why things like commitment are so hard for them, even relationship commitment. They will absolutely exist in these like loading zone relationships that are filled of complacency. Like, I happen to date this person, they're kind of like good enough for now. They're not really the love of my life. They don't actually propose. They don't want to have kids. They need some time to think about it. They're not sure they're ready yet. They're considering opening the relationship. They're not willing to commit to a person because it closes off all of these other possibilities. But they can absolutely be in relationships. They can work 7 years at a job and get mildly promoted over that time, but they'll be damned if they make it their career. And if you look at your mind, you will see this thought process. You will see that with every decision that you are considering making, you are terrified of the cost of the decision, of the closing off of possibilities. But the life that they crave is achieved precisely through that.
I am ready to
The
put on a
fantasy
show.
that they have of being an entrepreneur means giving up college, right? You want to be a college dropout. Like, that's what, but when it comes time to drop out of college, you're unable to do it. Having a meaningful, healthy, and fulfilling relationship means settling. This word, I have to settle. And that's the one thing that they cannot do. So what we want to do is focus on the loss. And be able to really think about, look at your psychology and look at this cycle of paralysis, of lack of commitment, followed by swimming around in the loading zone. And then the really terrifying thing is that, like, the doors start to close, right? And then once the doors start to close, you go to this aspect of blaming. And the favorite person to blame is former you. And now it's not possible anymore. But if you kind of look at it, now that it's not possible, this excuses you from making the commitment. This excuses you from the drab, dreary work that you need to do to make up for the lost time.
This is real.
Because when you've fallen behind in life, you don't make up for it by like discovering something magnificent, by winning the lottery. You really make up for it by like grinding extra hard. But their fantasy tells them, no, there's some way. If I find the perfect circumstance, if I find the right business partner, if I find this, like, I can be a 32-year-old, I can be broke at 32 and be a billionaire at 35. If I find the right thing. And so since they're unwilling to commit, since they're unwilling to do drab work, then suddenly they're 35 and they're exactly where they started. They haven't moved at all. And now the problem becomes worse. So now you need a more fantastical thing to save you. And this is the core of the psychological problem. This is what you really discovered. Is that they cannot make commitment, they cannot make a sacrifice, they cannot pay a cost without a guarantee of a gain. And if you cannot do that, you will never move forward in life. So the most important thing to do if you're stuck in this cycle is focus on the cost, not the gain. Anytime they look at something, literally, like I work with these people, used to be one of these people, what they sort of look at is they look at the upside, what it could be. They're focused, their eyes are on the fantasy, not the reality, because the reality is drab. And when you get attracted by the fantasy and you encounter the reality, hold on, this is where I wanted to go, but this is what it is, then you go back to square one. And at least you feel safe because you didn't invest too much. So what you've got to do is really look at the cost. Literally what I would tell you to do is think about the loss of potential and try to get rid of as much potential as you can, because the potential is what is paralyzing you. It's what allows, it's what traps you or makes it incapable for you to actually take a step forward. Because the moment that you walk through one door, other doors close.
The battle starts in 5.
And that's exactly what you need to do.
3, 2,
Start
1.
sacrificing your potential
All you need to do is
in
capture the
chunks.
mission area. Got it?
The second thing that's really important for Puer Aeterni is to recognize that the real work is internal.
Of loving chaos. It is true.
That the struggles that you need to fight are internal. Right? So growth is not about like getting promoted. It is about being able to grind. And this is where, once again, that hero complex, this is why I mentioned the hero complex, because the hero complex can come in and hijack this. So you'll be attracted to some heroic versions of growth. You see this with like the biohacking community, where it's like, I don't want to just like be generally healthy and exercise. I need to optimize, I need to biohack, I need to get more with less. Right? I don't want to do what normal people do. I want to figure out a really, really specific protocol that uses the latest in modern science to create a very special kind of health. But just eating oatmeal, beans, brown rice, veggies, lean proteins, like you can just eat fucking drab food that is healthy and exercise a moderate amount and do some yoga, and that will get you 95% of the way to maximal health. There's like pretty overwhelming scientific evidence of that. If you need a supplement for fish oil or vitamin D because we spend the whole time indoors, like sure, some of that stuff is good. But we have these gigantic meta-analyses that basically say healthy diet, moderate exercise, healthy socialization, fish oil, vitamin D, and you're basically golden. That gets you 95% of the way there. Like we know it's been figured out. And everyone is enamored that there's something great, something magnificent, something fantastical. That if I cook things in the right way, if I arrange things in the right way, I will be able to be superhuman. Because I just don't want to be a pleb.
Oh, I'm fine. Don't mind me.
The other thing that Puer Aeterni are really focused on is the cost, not the... Sometimes they... So, on the one hand, they're concerned about the loss of potential. And on the other hand, they are very, very, very stingy with paying costs. Right? So that they can't afford to spend their time, their energy, their money. They're some of the most frugal people on the planet. Fuck. Right? And so you need to, first of all, think about closing off potential, because frugal people on the planet, they're concerned about the loss of potential. And on the other hand, they are very, very, very stingy with paying costs. Right? So like they can't afford to spend their time, their energy, their money. They're some of the most frugal people on the planet. Right? And so you need to, first of all, think about closing off potential, because that's what life is. Your potential, doors are closing. You have to make a choice. Or you don't have to make a choice. You can continue swimming around in the loading zone. And when you make that choice, you are right. You will be trapped. You will be trapped by that choice. Okay? It'll absolutely trap you. It will be drab, it will be dreary, it will be you will be trapped, you will pay a high price, and you won't have anything to show for it. That's how you break out. That's the core of the complex. If you can shift this one thing, you will break free of it. And the big irony is that once you break free of it, then you open the door to constellating your life. You open your door to no longer living a marginal existence. You open the door to actually building something that you can be proud of, instead of having a heroic fantasy that is like still bypassing all of the drab, normal, plebby kind of stuff. Okay? oftentimes they struggle with small things too. So I'd say on a last practical note is focus on small things. And this is why I think that, like, you know, Jordan Peterson, I think, really likes Carl Jung, and he talks about cleaning your room. And I think that's a really good thing. So oftentimes your life is built not out of like fantastical 24-hour spurts of movement, but in like really practical small things that are done day in and day out, which feel drab. So you should try to make your life as drab, dreary, and trapped as possible with lopping off sections of potential. And if you do this, you will no longer be a puer aeternus. You will literally grow the fuck up. And what does it mean to be an adult? An adult means fucking doing the laundry, doing the dishes, emptying the dishwasher, doing the dishes again. That's what my life is. Like, literally. Right? So people can look at someone like Dr. K and they can think, oh my God, like his life is great. My life is great, don't get me wrong. But the way that it got here, even I was doing dishes from 10 to 10:45 yesterday because my kids are at home and they like make a mess. And then they look fucking parenting. It's like not exciting. It's not fun.
45 minutes to do dishes?
But that's what life is.
What the fuck?
So let's open it up to questions.
I'm calling Deborah on you, Dexter.
Jesus, dude, you are not making a sale right now. Exactly. So I don't know exactly what that person meant, right? But this person's like, you're not selling it to me. You're damn right. That is the problem. Because it has to be so, it has to fit into this idea of fantasy. What do you want me to tell you? Do you want me to tell you, oh my God, there's a secret technique. There's this one enzyme that you can buy right now for $69.95 that'll alter your dopaminergic circuitry in a novel way. It's this new science kind of thing. And if you understand the science, and if you do this, instead of being a degenerate fucking loser, you can be a billionaire entrepreneur. And it's this new secret thing that will allow you to, without any of the drab, dreary work, will allow you to accomplish all of your dreams. That's what we see on the internet. Why do we have all of these fucking fake fitness, wellness, optimization, podcast, entrepreneur bros? Why do these people exist? Because we're a fucking society of puer aeterni. We're a whole generation of people who are living in our parents' basement. Like literally 50% of people under the age of 30 are still living at home. For the first time in humanity. Well, not first time in humanity. Used to be normal for a long time. We're playing video games. We have poor mental health. We're addicted to pornography. And we have all of these people selling us, literally. If you look at like these alpha male people, they literally are selling you. It's just a picture of a dude surrounded by a lot of women in bikinis. And he sells you some course for you to enter the upper echelons of society. You can be everything that you claim to be in your head. All of your fantasies can come true. And what do they do? How do they sell this shit? They sell this shit by shitting on normal people. They're like, fuck that. I ain't ever gonna work in a UPS. That is beneath me. I ain't ever gonna date a girl who's less than a 9. That's all beta shit. They're playing perfectly into this complex of fragile ego, inferiority, and superiority complex. They're playing y'all like fiddle, which is why they are huge. Which is why video games are huge. Puer aeterni used to be a fraction of the population. It is quickly becoming a majority. And the really hilarious thing here is that they even grappled onto red pill versus blue pill. But they kind of flipped it around. I don't know if this makes sense. Taking the red pill is making the hard choice, right? It's like you can live in your life of comfort. You can stay in this world and be a bot in a simulation and not know the truth of things. But if you take the red pill, then you will feel the harshness of reality. I don't know if this makes sense though. When they idealize that, that is actually the blue pill. It is the fantasy of being a hero instead of the reality of being a pleb. Making the hard choice is actually taking the blue pill and grinding away like all the normies in the simulation with the possibility of not achieving anything. But we have this hero complex where I'm going to take the red pill and I'm going to make the hard choices. You're not making the hard choices, you're avoiding the hard choices. And you're magnifying it with some hero complex in your head. Does that make sense? It's like so weird how the people who talk about the red pill are actually the most blue pill. They're living in a world of fantasy. And like, do you guys think it's like this is wild? I want y'all to think about this, okay? Mary Louise von Franz wrote this book. Let me just...
I am ready to put on a show.
Keep fighting until we have a winner.
What was this originally? The pro... Okay, this is interesting.
All I ever wanted to do was
So,
climb Luna Snow,
she was alive from
like the moon,
1915 to
or shine in
1998.
darkness.
This is the third edition, was published in 2000. I don't know when she wrote the original book. Okay, but this is like,
30
this is
seconds
a
before you
concept
attack.
from like the
Get ready.
1950s.
People are always afraid of time.
And like,
They
when
just
we
don't
look
know
at
him.
things like red pill psychology,
Too long.
she's talking about this. Like, there's a typical form of the same disturbance. In this case, the image of a mother, the image of the perfect woman who will give everything to a man, who is without any shortcomings, is sought in every woman. So that each time he is fascinated by a woman, he is later has to later discover that she's an ordinary human being.
2, 1.
Right? And people say like, oh, they don't treat women as humans, whatever. Sure. But it goes deeper than that. This is the fantasy. They're living, the whole red pill ideology is an ideology of fantasy. And I'm not trying to like shit on these people. I'm just saying like think about this, y'all. This book was like, this concept was conceived 70 years ago. And it so perfectly fits what is going on in the minds of some of these men today. Because heaven forbid, I lock myself in to dating a woman who will have the horrible crime, who will commit the horrible crime of getting older. And if she has kids, oh my God, there's going to be bodily changes. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin plates. I'm going to pass on my gene pool. And we're talking about dudes, but Puella Eterni are just as bad.
To shed some light.
The most psychologically fucked up patients I've had in my office are not Puella Eterni. They are the children of Puella Eterni.
Oh.
A Puella Eternus is a female Puella Eternus, right? So remain the child. So these are people who have fantasies of motherhood, but fail. They're people who get pregnant, and then after they have kids, they don't want to change diapers. They're out partying. They don't want to wipe up vomit. They're fucking absent mothers. They want to reclaim their youth. They're getting plastic surgery and become influencer moms and use their children. They don't want to do the work of motherhood, but they will absolutely live the fantasy of motherhood. And I'm going to show it to the whole world, and the world will love me for it. I will be this heroine complex. Look at me. I'm a woman who's just trying so hard in the world, and the world is against me, and it's never my fault. And oh my God, like, I just can't wipe up shit. But instead, what I'm going to do is coach my 3-year-old for 4 hours to say something really profound. I'll record them, and then I will upload it to the internet.
Thanks.
And then everyone will see how much of an awesome mother I am. Moms who didn't do the dishes, didn't cook for their kids, were terrified of the changes, the natural physiological changes that happen in their body once they have kids, and to try to counter those changes will seek validation from other sources outside of the home and fucking abandon their kids. Puella Turnai are just as bad. Right, so this is not like a... I didn't like the title of this stream, which I didn't make, but it is Puer. The book is literally Puer, so it's the male version. But Puella Turnai is just as bad.
Again!
Why is nobody on point?
Right? Typical narc mom. So this is what I'm kind of saying is like, so we can use these terms like narcissist. But what I like about this concept of Puer Eternus and Puella Eternus is it gives us a specific insight into a specific thing that needs to change. Be willing to be trapped. Be willing to be dragged. Be willing to be ordinary. To radically accept the dreariness of your life. And that is the requirement of escape. But y'all need to be careful. Because if you're not careful, you will heroize that. And if you heroize it, if you say like, oh, I'm going to be great by accepting the dreariness of my life, that's the Puer Eternus complex hijacking it, and you'll do it for a week. Then you'll realize, oh, the heroic journey of the drab is really fucking boring. And then you'll just start playing video games and jerking off. Let's find a way to help these mothers not just hate on them. This is getting so negative. Fair enough, but I've been pretty negative towards the dudes all along. Right? So, like, this is maybe a mistake that I'm making, where, like, I'm not trying to say that these people are bad. In fact, like, I've devoted a significant portion of my life, including this lecture. This is not me shitting on those people. I mean, I'm shitting on them, but not to make them feel bad. This is to recognize what your psychological complexes are, and if you're a Puella Eternus, like other examples of Puella Eternai are like people who are afraid of commitment, right? You're dating someone, you're like, you think there's something better out there, no one is ever good enough, like all that kind of stuff is there. It's not men, women, both. The reason I'm sharing this stuff is not to make these people feel bad. It's if you identify with this, there is a way out. There's an incredible frustration and negativity with yourself if you are a Puer Eternus or a Puella Eternus. And it's buried deep. And if you're not careful, the fantasy will continue. You will continue to blame other people. Right? But you've got to accept responsibility. And by responsibility, what I mean is you have to close doors. Like the concept of like, what if this person isn't right for me, and being unwilling to commit, you still have to commit. Right? A committed relationship is not about selecting the right person. It is about you and this, it's about you being a wrong person and this other person being a wrong person. Both of y'all are wrong. You're not the right person. Taking two wrong people who are committed to making something work and then fucking doing the work of making it work. And the biggest problem with dating apps right now is they have sold us a subconscious idea that the right person is out there for you. The only reason you're alone is because you haven't found the right person. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna give you access to the internet. Ho ho! And once we give you access to the internet, we will tell you all these features about all these people. And then if you can find the right person, then you will be happy. And you know what we're going to do? It's been hard for you to find the right person. Oh my God, my bad. You know what I forgot? When I was telling you I could find you the right person, I forgot a height filter. So let you filter by height. And if you can filter by height, then you can find the right, oh shit, my bad. You can find the right person if I let you filter by height.
2, 1.
The reason dating apps don't work very well is because they sell you a fundamentally broken premise, which is that the reason you're alone is because you can't find the right person. The reason that you're alone is you don't know how to healthily function in a relationship. And the more that you think that a successful relationship is about finding the right person instead of becoming the right becoming the right person, it's a flawed premise. If we literally look at the research around how a successful relationship is made, it is not about partner selection. It is about what you do once you have a partner. Y'all get that? Like, it's so simple. Right? Like, having a successful career is not about picking the right job. It's about the shit that you do when you show up at work. And this is why some people are fundamentally more successful, because you can stick them in many jobs, but their work ethic is right. And this is why some people are very successful in many relationships. And we have data that these people exist. Scary thing is that secure attachment style means that you will be successful, you will be more successful on average in any relationship compared to an avoidant attachment style or anxious attachment style. Is that fair? No. But is it true? Yes. It's about what you bring to the relationship, not the person that you select.
I am ready to put on a show.
And since we're all becoming more narcissistic, we hate this idea. Right? Like, if you're single at the age of 35, the most terrifying thought is that you are responsible. I'm not saying that things aren't hard. Things are genuinely very difficult. We've got a video coming out about that soon, hopefully. But there's all kinds of changes that happened during the pandemic that have made relationships like we're all fighting an uphill battle. But it's like really scary, right? So like so this is what's so tricky about that. Things are objectively probably the hardest they've ever been in terms of finding a relationship. Like literally, the hardest they've ever been. That's being reflected by things like declining birth rates, all this kind of stuff. Right? The number of people who are single is like skyrocketing. Loneliness is skyrocketing. So when we look at these global trends, you can't blame an individual. There's something going on that's affecting everybody. It's hard for everybody. And at the same time, just because things are hard for everyone doesn't mean that there is not something that you can do, and the more responsibility that you take for your situation, the better off you will be. Because even though everything is getting harder, there are still plenty of people who are finding and building successful relationships. It's so interesting how it subconsciously enters my language. Right? Finding successful, that's the problem. That's what you build a successful relationship. You don't find it. It's built. And so what we're seeing is that even though on average everything is getting harder, there are still some people who are figuring out how to connect to other human beings.
I got you covered.
But the problem is that if a dating app emphasizes personal responsibility, they will not have users.
What am I? Invisible?
Because that doesn't fit into this like narcissistic growth that is happening across the board of society. Right? If I was designing a dating app, it would start with 12 weeks of coaching. That's how it would start. The first thing I would do, if you want to, like, if we started an AG dating app, step number one is, are you fucking worth dating? And if not, let's analyze why. Let's analyze your attachment style. Let's analyze your narcissistic tendencies. Let's analyze like simple things like, do you leave the toilet seat up or down? Do you do dishes? Do you chew with your mouth open? Like, do you spend time on your cell phone when you're with other human beings? Let's turn you into someone who is worth dating. And then, fucking it, you can have your pick of the litter.
I am ready to put on a show.
Right? It'd be like matches? What do you mean matches? We're gonna work on you first. And then there's gonna be like a tier. Where you have to graduate from basic fucking shit. And then once you graduate from basic fucking shit, then you're entered into a pool of other people who have graduated from basic fucking shit. And so instead of like, this is what's so bad about dating apps, right? So like if you've got one bad apple, they ruin one relationship really quickly and they're back on the market. And then they ruin the next relationship and they ruin the next relationship and they ruin the next relationship. One bad person in a dating pool can make so many people bitter so quickly. Like they have such a toxic effect because now that you've had this shitty dude and then another shitty dude who's like incapable, like you have two guys with incapable relationships that are making the rounds. And now all the women that they date are bitter and turned off of men because they've encountered two assholes. An asshole moves way further and way faster and encounters way more people in a dating pool than a decent human being. Don't get that?
By the
And then it's really weird selection. And it's not just like male assholes. There's a really interesting study that shows that 50% of women on dating apps use the apps for psychological needs outside of finding partners. Validation, shitting on other people, feeling superior, all this kind of stuff. Literally. 50% of the women on dating apps, according to this one study, so take that with a grain of salt, are not even using it to find a partner. Right? And if you guys have been on dating apps, you know, ha ha ha, you're so great. Hey, follow me on Instagram. Hey, check out my OnlyFans. They're using it for needs outside of dating. And then if you encounter, and those people too are like spreading it around pretty quickly, right? They're moving pretty quickly. They're getting around. And so if you're a dude on the app, like you encounter like, for every like one decent human being you run into, you encounter a bucket of these people. If you got to filter all those people out. This dating app would never work because people are lazy. It would work if people did it. Like, it would absolutely work, right? Like, we'd, like, do an analysis of what your shortcomings are as a human being and how to turn yourself into a desirable partner.
Time to switch things up, including which
And, like, how do I know it would work? Because, I know this is going to sound crazy, when I do that shit and my profession does that shit, in our offices, something shocking happens. People who are chronically single end up in relationships. Holy crap. When you do psychotherapy for reactive attachment disorder, when you treat someone with BPD, who one of the diagnostic features is a history of unstable and tumultuous relationships, when you treat these people in the right way, they end up in stable relationships.
Even when you can't see me, I'll still make you.
Don't worry about finding your partner. Worry about becoming the partner. And this is what's really cool. Is like when you get two human beings who are focused on becoming the right partner, that's when you turn into a beautiful relationship. That's what finding a good relationship is like.
Very true.
Was that supposed to be a compliment?
Right? Like, it's like, why? Like, we know that this works.
It's getting you to stop talking about yourself. That's the real trick.
What do you mean, how can I deal with family members where this issue can often result in arguments?
starts in 5, 4, 3,
If I do 12-week coaching, do I become an official HG certified Rizzler? We may build that one day, I feel inspired.
Count of 4 to walk away.
Oh, there's one other thing I want to tell you all about Sierra tonight. Let me post links to it. Let's be questions. There's one other thing, like there's one other cool thing that I wanted to show you all. Okay, here is slide a link for chat. So you guys can post questions here. All right, let's vote on them. One other cool thing. So there's one other fantasy that Puera Turn I have. And that is that there is an abrupt force that will enter your life and force you to grow or die. So when I work with Puer Aeterni, they have this like idea of like, man, if war showed up, like if there was a zombie apocalypse, like I would love that. What I want more than anything else in life is a zombie apocalypse. Why? Because if I die, I fucking die. Like, so be it. I don't care. Either I'm gonna be something or I'm gonna be dead. They long for this. They long to be tested. They long to be swept up by their circumstances. And either they die or they become heroes. They long to be isekai, baby. Let's go. There's a whole genre that taps into Puer Aeternus, right? What is the archetype of isekai? Ordinary kid, drab, boring, not exceptional, victim of bullying, not one of the popular kids. Got it. Right? And get swept up. Oh my god. With this perfect circumstance that allows them to become this exceptional person. But holy shit, in order to become that exceptional person, you literally need a whole fictional world. That's the circumstance that it's going to take to bring out your perfection.
I'll fight for my family until the end.
So this is what's kind of cool about Jung, right? So Jung talked about archetypes. And he's like, this stuff is deep within all of us.
Yeah.
Deep within all of us. And I think that's why isekai is a genre of anime. And I think that's why, like, it's a genre of an art form, but of a particular art form. Because Puer Aeterni are attracted to anime. Right? Because it's a bit fantastical to begin with. And of the fantasy forms of art, it's not like we're looking at Van Gogh's Starry Night or poetry. It's like, it's anime. And then in anime, there's a subset. So anime is a fantasy world. And in the fantasy world, there's an exponential fantasy world. You'll see that? Like, it's wild. This is how deep the archetype runs. And I don't think that the makers of isekai anime are necessarily Puer Aeterni, but I imagine they probably are. Greater chance, let's say. But they're tapping into something that all of us human beings crave. And we're all Puer Aeterni. We all have this. There's also something really interesting while questions are populating about there's another thing that can happen to Puer Aeterni, which is that you can actually kill it.
Boop, boop, boop.
So the Puer Aeterni is like the child within you. And sometimes we get so engrossed by that child, we get so frustrated that we start to demonize it. And then we become Sigma grind set with no joy in life. It's about work, 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 grind, 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 never rest, never calm down, never have joy. So it's the opposite pendulum of Puer Aeternus. And they'll actually kill the Puer. This creates a problem because the Puer Aeternus, the child within us, is not a bad thing. Right? We need a balance of connection with the inner child. But one way that people get out of it is by swinging the pendulum too far. So we're thinking, by the way, about doing a follow-up lecture on Puer Aeternus and a lot of these more detailed things. I'm going to show you all just a quick example of like a more detailed thing. I think it's beyond the scope of this lecture, but give me a second. Okay, there's like all kinds of Hold on, I'm trying to find this. Yeah, so like for example, there's a segment on like creativity in Puer Aeternus. So like creativeness presupposed a tremendous capacity for being genuine, for letting go, for being spontaneous. For if one cannot be spontaneous, one cannot really be creative, and therefore most artists and other creative people have a normal and genuine tendency to playfulness. So there's this like whole idea of like what we are terrified of is like just becoming a number. Like so Puer Aeterni are afraid of becoming a number and not being like a real fully fleshed human being. So there's all kinds of other like issues around Puer Aeternus. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah, so like there's a dual nature of a Puer Aeternus, which is a crippled genius that we don't want to give up. Right? So like there's other things like this, like, you know, the archetype of crippled genius, the archetype of like creativity and being a Puer Aeternus, losing yourself, the fear of becoming just a number or just a pleb. So there's all these other manifestations that don't apply to every Puer Aeternus, but they're like different versions of it. I guess you could say that there's the Puer Aeternus class, and then there's a lot of dynamics and subclasses. And depending on which subclass of Puer Aeternus you are, that predisposes you to certain challenges. And there are certain things that you have to do, depending on your subclass, to overcome those challenges. So are you a crippled genius? It's a slightly different archetype with a slightly different psychological root. Okay? So we're thinking about doing a part 2. And that'll actually just depend on, you know, whether people like that or not. Okay, let me just see. Let's look at questions.
Which hero do you think you want to be today? Now, who am I gonna banish from this match?
Okay. How do I audience Q&A? Oh, is Q&A not open? Okay. There we go. Okay, Q&A just opened. Sorry, I should have opened it. Okay. Question number 1. If someone is stuck in the Puer Aeternus state because society offers no meaningful rites of passage or stable adult roles, is it really their fault? So I think this is a really great question and is classic Puer Aeternus. Does society offer no meaningful rites of passage for people anymore? Is every
Pick your hero.
rite of passage
Or villain. I'm not
gone?
judging.
Are there rites of passage that are not meaningful? We have empty rites of passage. What separates an empty rite of passage from a meaningful rite of passage? How do you define what a rite of passage by society is? Right? So this is exactly the kind of thinking that I'm talking about. Now, if you were to ask me, do I believe that society offers fewer meaningful rites of passage than existed 50 years ago? I would say absolutely. There is a huge part of the Puer
30
Aeternus
seconds before you
literature
attack.
which goes
Get
to
ready.
initiation. This is something that is absolutely on the decline. So this person is not wrong in their thinking. Bunch of literature. So if we look at how does a child become a man? How does a child become a woman? There are rites of passage. There's this
The
concept
battle
of
starts in
initiation.
5, 4, 3.
And we are absolutely
2,
a society
1.
that is losing
All you need to do is
initiation.
capture the mission area. Got it?
Initiation used to be graduating from school, but now we go back to school. Right? It used to be you would graduate and education is over. But now people go back to grad school. So when does education really end? When are you done with it? You're never done with it. And now what's happening is we reject rites of passage.
Looks like the mission area
We consider
is
them
yours for
patriarchal.
capture now.
Right? So like all of these like societies, like the Freemasons and things like that have all these rituals of growth and change. Those don't really happen anymore. Some cultures preserve them. Bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras,
They captured the mission
right? But those are
area.
like, most cultures don't have these, and the cultures that do have them have to work really hard to preserve them. So we are absolutely losing rites of passage. We are losing initiation. Even in the spiritual traditions, initiation used to be a huge part of spiritual traditions. And the reason, there was a lot of really important reasons for that. But along with the abuse of gurus came the loss of initiation. And when we lost initiation in meditation, we lost something really, really, really big. Those of y'all that have been in our community may have found a tiny fragment of what was lost. So the person's general point is spot on. And the language speaks of a puer aeternus. Because once again, I'm not at fault. Right? That's the implication of the, I don't know, the person is not talking about themselves. But if I hear that question from a puer aeternus, it's society's fault. Is it really our fault? I don't think it's your fault. It's your responsibility. You are still faced with this situation of growing, developing. And we used to
Which
have
hero
all
do you
kinds
think
of
you wanna be
structures
today?
that are absolutely being decayed. Hell, in India, we used to have arranged marriage. We still do. Right? So there's a lot that is changing in society, which is why we have, and those societal forces are
Who am I
real.
gonna banish from this
Which is
match?
why the number of puer aeterni in the world today is growing at an astronomical rate. So you're spot on that things are way harder. Is it your fault? I think it's the wrong question. I think the better question is, what are you going to do about it? The puer aeternus loves to assign blame and find reasons. What they gravitate away from, what they're repulsed by, is dreary action. Action in spite of bad circumstances, unless they can convert it into a hero complex. Does that make sense? Great question. I didn't mean to shit on you, by the way. I really thought it was a great question. Please help me understand. I just need to force myself to do boring stuff. Sort of. So, beautiful
The right
question.
heroes could make all the difference.
Forcing yourself is not going to be possible. What you need to do is recognize why you have to force yourself to do boring stuff in the first place. Why can't you do boring stuff? Do y'all understand? That is the problem with puer aeternus. When you try to do boring stuff, you will encounter a set of thoughts.
Round one.
Is this worth it? There is a fantasy in my mind that will arise that will make this work less worth it. Oh, if I do it later, I
coming
can
in
do it
30
more
seconds.
efficiently. This
Stay
thought will
strong.
arise. If I do this work, I'll be locked in or trapped. Therefore, you don't do it. If you do this work, it does not live up to a fantasy. Your mind will literally generate a fantasy, create a discrepancy. And in the discrepancy of your fantasy and the reality, the motivation will disappear.
The battle
That
starts
is
in
what needs
5,
to be fixed. You don't need to
4,
just do the
3,
work. If you
2,
just do the work,
1.
that may or may not work. I think it'll actually probably not work sustainably. What you need to do is understand why it is hard for you to do boring work in the first place. The more that you turn around and do these three psychological mechanisms, the more you will be free of the complex. So ask yourself, if I do this work, where will I end up? What will I give up? What will I give up that will not be worth it.
Guardians of the galaxy value all life.
You will be held back by the possibility of regret so bad that you will never act. And then you will then regret your inaction. And you will blame your past self. And then once again, you won't start the boring work today because your mind will be focused on the fantasy of what could have been. And then if you try to do something now, it will not live up to the fantasy of what could have been if you had started when you were supposed to. You guys see, it just keeps going over and over and over again. Oh my God, like, I can't believe I'm going back to school at the age of 26 because if I started when I was 22, imagine how far I could be. And then you'll fucking drop out of 26. The value of the concept, anyone can show up and just tell you, do boring things. The reason I'm sharing this with y'all is that you understand what is happening in your mind. You will understand why it's hard to do boring things. And then my hope is that that will give you some degree of power over yourself, because that is what the Puer Aeternus lacks. They're a crippled genius. The genius is there, but they can't get it.
Us against the world.
They're an Olympic runner without legs. But the crippling is in your mind. It is the way that you conceive things. It is the inability to close doors in your life. It is the recognition that fantasy and reality have such a large gap that literally the motivational circuits in your brain have an expected value. And when reality does not live up to the expected value generated by your brain, it crashes your motivation. So there's absolutely like all kinds of neuroscience crap that we talk about all the time. That's what I love about Jung. You don't need to know all that stuff. You just need to understand this one psychological concept. And if you recognize these patterns in your mind and do not let them win, this is the key thing. Whatever it tells you to do, don't do that. So it is not just to do boring stuff. Because if you do that, if you try to do that, it won't work because your mind will trick you in other ways. It has 6 elements of attack. You can use fire attacks, you can use ice attacks, you can use water attacks, earth attacks, light attacks, and dark attacks. If you just recognize if you're like, just do work, just do boring things, that's just a fire attack. It'll use other things. It'll give you a hero complex, it'll make comparisons, it'll create fantasies. It'll tell you that, oh, if you like do it, if you get better at it, it'll be more efficient. So you do not have to exert this effort. You don't need to just do boring things. You need to do boring things. You need to do wasteful things. Things that your mind tells you, oh, you can do it more efficiently or this will be a waste of time. You need to do things that will lop off parts of your potential. You need to do things that close doors in your life. That is the most important thing.
Better stop that vehicle.
Then you'll get over it. Beautiful question.
I feel like myself again.
How does Puer Aeternus come to fruition? Is it hereditary? Whew, what a great question. I think it may have some hereditary nature, but generally speaking, I do not think of it as hereditary. I think this is why we sort of think about it. So I think if you're treated as a gifted kid,
I am ready to put
that
on a
I think
show.
is like a really, really strong risk factor for developing Puer Aeternus complex. That's not necessarily hereditary. So what component, like IQ is hereditary, but I think it is the way that you were introduced to the world, what you're allowed to get away with. So I think your upbringing matters probably more than your hereditary nature. But what I wouldn't be surprised of is if there are, you know, people with shared upbringing, but there may be some things like a predisposition for narcissism. A low level of conscientiousness. So there may be some aspects that are hereditary. But I, generally speaking, when I've worked with these people, there's like a certain psychological upbringing, an emphasis on fantasy, And the problem with Puer Eternus is that their fantasies work for a while. Like, they do live fantastical lives. They are able to be heroic when they're young. They are geniuses. But in becoming that genius, they don't develop the skill of hard work. And since they don't develop the skill of hard work, then they're trapped. Because they run away from boring stuff. They run away from hard work. And I think the other reason that it's growing isn't hereditary, but it's societally, I think technology plays into this complex incredibly powerfully.
I am ready to put on a show!
Okay. How does one get better at accepting making sacrifices, even for small choices? Sometimes I get so stuck in this loop of making a choice that is so exhausting. Absolutely. So this is the hard thing, right? Making a sacrifice is hard. So what I would say is, like, you have to look at the sacrifice from multiple angles. So making a sacrifice is about paying the cost. It's about giving something up.
The current score is 0-2.
And so what you really have to ask yourself is,
Time to
why
switch
am I
things
such a
up,
miser
including which
with my
side you're on.
resources?
Life energy is a powerful weapon against evil. You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
Like, once you understand why you feel like your resources cannot be spent, then making a sacrifice will be easier. And this is where things get really deep really fast. Because for Puer Eterni, their life is a set of diminishing resources. You started life with $10,000 in the bank, and each year that goes by, you are losing 500 because you never actually actualize, right? You never actually fulfill anything. So the concept subconsciously that you can grow your bank account doesn't exist because you never actually accomplished anything. You didn't get more resources. You didn't get promoted. You didn't get any of that stuff. So if you look at your life, what happens is each year you become smaller. You become diminished. You become less than. And if between the ages, if you peaked at 15,
Starts in 5, 4,
and each year
3, 2,
you become smaller and smaller and smaller, you cannot afford
Looks like you're my new guardians, huh?
to make a wrong choice.
Help get that vehicle to its destination.
Does that make sense? So this is something that you really need to understand. You got to get to understanding why you believe that you can't afford to spend anything. But the more that you sort of think about it, the more that you realize, like, what am I really spending here? I'm spending effort and I'm spending time. The effort that I spend, if I don't spend effort today, it's not like I have twice the amount of effort tomorrow. Right? Like, you can sort of, you know, you can sort of, like, if I take a day off, maybe I can do more work tomorrow. But it's not like if I take 2 years off, I can suddenly do, like, 2 years of work in the next... I can't do 4 years of work in the next 2 years. You can do 4 years of work in 2 years, but that doesn't require you taking time off ahead of time. Does that kind of make sense? So you have to really rethink this issue of, like, resources. And why do you feel like your resources are so scarce?
The vehicle reached a checkpoint. Keep up the momentum.
What are some questions to ask yourself to challenge our inability to close doors? Okay, so I think if you're having difficulty closing doors, I think one of the best places to start... Let me think. So I think the sequence is like, what's the problem with losing this possibility?
I am ready to put on a
What
show.
would my life be if I lost this possibility? Come up with an answer. And then comes the really important question. What's wrong with that? Why do I need a perfect life? Why can't I have an ordinary life? And then you'll get some answer, right? I want a perfect. Fine, I understand that you want one. What's wrong with an ordinary life? I look down on
Let's
it.
get this show on the road.
I'm opening a portal.
I don't want to be ordinary. I want to be extraordinary. And what are you? You're less than ordinary.
Almost there.
Right? So ordinary is a step up.
By the eye of Agamotto!
And so oftentimes what happens, this is the problem with Puer Eternus, is that a step up is not sufficient. Progress is insufficient. What you need is completion. What you need is victory. You hate this, but you will be victorious. Oh, look at that. And then look at the impact of what that does in your life. You will never win if victory is what you're looking for. You will never succeed if what success is what you're looking for. Because when you do the grind, you don't get success. As you unpack that, the obstacles will start to go away, and then hopefully you can grind a little bit. You can take some small action, and then something really important will happen. If you see that progress is good, and progress can maybe be enough, which, if you hear me say progress is enough, and you instinctively recoil, and you say, no, because if it's enough, then I'll stop wanting, then I'll stop working, then I will be content, and if I am content, I will never be great. What Puer Eterni want is pleasure and safety, not contentment. Because mad geniuses are never content. They're consumed by their brilliance. They're not a little bit overweight, have 2 kids, pay a mortgage, and fucking get promoted every 2 years. That's not what I want to be. That's a pleb. You want grandiosity? You want exceptionalism? You want pleasure? You want safety? You don't want ordinary existence. And so as you understand these things,
do you think you want to be today?
I won't say it'll be easier to close a door. Was that the question? But you must close doors. Doors are closing. This is the tragedy of Puer Eternus. This is what's so crippling. Doors are closing all the time. Whether you walk through one door, doors are closing. And then you get crippled because what if it's the wrong door? Well, it's going to close anyway. And this is what life is. I think one of the advantages is that oftentimes they're deeply philosophical. So lean into that. This is life, boys and girls. Life is getting older. There's one really great quote. Let me see if I can find it. It's hard. I guess
You'll need a top-notch
I'll have to
team
find it
win
later,
this
but
one.
there's a really great relationship between life and death that Puer Eterni get trapped in. So I already accepted I need to do the work. I do the work, or me, a PC repairman, a writer, a public speaker, a freaking beekeeper. How do I choose now? I like them all. This is a great question. This is the problem of Puer Eternus. The problem of Puer Eternus is that they're unwilling to give anything up. How do you choose? flip a coin,
30 seconds
roll
before
a
you
dice,
attack.
and
Get
go
ready.
with it. And then you won't do that because it hurts to give something up. What the Puer Aeternus is attached to more than anything else is the possibility and the potential. They don't want to restrict themselves in any way. But becoming something cannot happen
battle starts
unless
in
you
5,
give something
4,
else up. You
3,
cannot become
2,
all things.
1.
You can
All you need
become
to do is
one
capture the
thing.
mission area.
That's
Got
literally
it?
what become is to have a form. A form. Not all forms, a form. I become a doctor. That means I am not all of these other things. Does that make sense?
Hurts.
There's a really deep fear of giving something up, especially if you like it.
A nice deep freeze.
What if you give up the wrong thing? So then the right thing to do is to answer that question. And you'll realize how silly, powerful, but silly. If you give up the wrong thing, what are you left with? You are left with something that you like. I like them all.
This is real.
I like being a beekeeper. I like being a writer. So give up everything except for writer, and you're left with, oh no, something that you like. How terrifying is that? And I'm being sarcastic, but there is something terrifying, right? But then the question is, what? And this is what I think is so powerful about Jung. Jung is like, get to the heart of the psychological matter. You can't make a choice, fine. Why? What is going on? What is so bad? And you have to try to answer this question. Really try to answer it. What is so bad about living a life doing something that you enjoy? Because the Puer Aeternus will absolutely be terrified of that. So there's a fundamental greed for more. The ordinary is not enough. I need the fantasy. That's that fundamental greed. And this is where I think, like, there's absolutely an angle of Puer Aeternus and sort of like Eastern spirituality, where if you practice detachment and conquer desire, Puer Aeternus will disappear. This is that whole angle too. Wonderful question. These are great questions. How do you deal with the fear of confrontation? It is such a non-breakable barrier. I've got loud neighbors and approaching a huge house with a group of people. I need like more info. I mean, so there are many things that can lead people to be afraid of confrontation.
Only 60 seconds left.
Generally speaking, confronting people is hard because
Vehicle to its destination.
we're afraid of the reaction,
What do I do for an encore?
right? So like, generally speaking, when I try to help people like stop being doormats or be able to engage in confrontation, the first thing, the first step is to recognize what is the reaction that I'm afraid of. Like, play the tape through to the end. Like if I walk up to them and I say this, what am I afraid is going to happen? Because there's a fear of confrontation, right? And literally, like, spec those out. What are the different things that can happen? Second step is, what is the likelihood of each of these things? And third thing is, if any of these things happen, what will I do? So, if you go through that exercise, so that exercise in and of itself will get you half of the way there. Oftentimes what we find is that doing a simple exercise like that still isn't enough. So then the question becomes, what am I like, if I've spec'd this out and I figured out what I'm going to do and that's kind of like acceptable for me to do, why can I still not do it?
They don't look friendly.
Get that vehicle
And then eventually what we sort of need to get to is maybe some level. So if that doesn't work, then we kind of go down the exposure route. Right? Where we have to like train yourself to be able to tolerate distress. So oftentimes people are afraid of confrontation because they cannot tolerate the internal state that confrontation makes. So there are a couple of really practical things you can do there. One is you can start to figure out what amount of distress you can tolerate and tolerate that on a regular basis. So my favorite example of this is if you're not happy with your meal, tell someone. Right? So how is the food? Not the best. Chicken felt cold. Whatever. There's no like real consequence to it. Kind of feels really hard to do, but like practice. The other thing that can really help when it comes to confrontation is having support. So very practically, like if you're gonna go confront a neighbor, like have a friend with you. Literally like backing you up. Like literally standing behind you. There's something about human beings and our emotions and empathy and confrontation where we feel safer if someone is with us. So if you can find like the easiest piece of advice if you don't want to do any cognitive work is get a posse and then go say something. Like that show of strength, like activate something primitive because we're primates.
Down to 30 seconds.
And it's like, there's a reason that we form battle lines as human beings. And so I think so many things in life have become hard. Like confronting someone has become hard. And the reason it's become hard is because when we evolved, we would like have people like physically at our backs. Why do y'all think a meeting with HR is so hard? For an employee. It's because you're alone and there's 3 people on the opposite table. Why do you think that the meeting with HR is so much easier for HR? It's because when someone talks to you, they have HR at their back. And when HR talks to someone, they have an employee at their back.
The current score is 1-2.
Do y'all understand like the deep psychological significance of that situation? It's not just the power differential. So we tend to like oversimplify things. We're reductionists because it's easy cognitively. Oh, there's a power difference. It's not just a power difference. There's like a person difference. When you go talk to HR, you don't get to bring your posse, right? They structure a situation that makes them feel comfortable and makes you feel uncomfortable. So you can understand some of these psychological principles and take advantage of them.
I am Loki.
So if you're going to go talk to if you're going to talk to HR, like bring an attorney.
I am accused.
Even if they don't fucking say anything.
It is true.
And if you're going to confront a neighbor, bring at least one friend. And then the other cool thing happens. So if you're afraid of confronting a neighbor, but if you're in the posse, you can confront the neighbor. It's like, I don't fucking know this person. So if my friend is like stumbling over their words, this is my friend, like, yo, dude,
a threat.
I don't think you're hearing what my friend is saying. Your noise is disruptive. Will you please turn it down? Because I don't fucking care. The reason it's hard to confront people is because you have to deal with them the next day.
3, 2,
right? So if you want to break up with someone, it's hard.
You have to stop them from securing the mission
But
area.
your BFF can break up with your asshole boyfriend without a problem. It's easy for them. So get some help. I'm not saying pass it off. That's not good. But get some help.
I outnumber you.
Okay. I get it's off topic. That's okay.
Systems restart.
How can I help someone close to me who is like this? Okay. So this is where, like, you send them this lecture. Right? So, like, honestly, like, my honest answer is, like, send them resources. Like, that's a great place to start. So if you want to help someone, So if I'm talking about someone, like if I'm, I'm Dr. K, I'm like fucking shitting on people right, left, and center when we stream. Like, you're a fucking loser here, and you suck at this, and you're pathetic there, and you live in a fantasy life, and you're a man-child, and...
You need to stop that vehicle in its tracks.
Heavy weapons.
By the way, this is the way I talk to myself. Okay? So I wouldn't talk to y'all in a way that I wouldn't talk to myself. And when I talk to myself, it's the same attitude. Harsh language, loving tone. Low what tone, but like moving. Love it. My head is a fun place. When I was in residency, people used to always ask me, like, why are you smiling? There's like, not like, I'd be like sitting there in a corner, like smiling to myself. And there was a joke that I was responding to internal stimuli and I was psychotic. It's because I have some weird stuff going on in my head. I'll be having these weird conversations and talking to myself. But, so how do you help someone like this? So, I think it's really hard because oftentimes queer eterni don't want help. What they want is a fantasy, and you can never give them a fantasy. So honestly, what I would start with is like sending them this lecture and then asking them, hey, does this resonate with you? Like, does any of this like track for you? And like, I know this sounds crazy, but like that apparently works. So people will come up to me in the street and they'll be like, hey, you did this lecture.
Well, you can't expect to win
I
them
really
all.
enjoyed your content, but like there's this one lecture that I sent to a friend of mine and it like absolutely helped him. Or her. And that does work apparently. But I think that part of the reason that we have lectures like this is so it opens the door for a conversation. Because generally speaking, people that we care about don't appreciate being psychoanalyzed by like their friends. And so I think if you don't want to send them this lecture, then an alternative is just asking them like, hey, like, how are things going? Start with a super open-ended question. So I'm like concerned because it seems like you're kind of stuck in life. What do you think is going on? And then in the back of your mind, you've got these talking points, right? You know what's going on. So you can ask about them. And you can be like, like it seems like it's really hard for you to like make a decision and close a door. Like it's hard for you to lock into something. What makes that hard? Right? So why is it hard to give something up? And sometimes the best thing to do is just listen. So you can ask some questions, but if you ask enough pointed questions and you're right enough, there's a good chance they're going to figure out that like you've got a script in your head. Like, this is weird. What's going on? So then that can shut people off. That's why it's really hard. So I really do think, I mean, we've had people send the BPD video. We've had people send the Gifted Kids video. We've had people send like, like why it's hard to move on from regret, like all kinds of things. Like people will share videos with each other. And then I think it's a really like easy way to like open the door to a conversation. Because if they're interested in it, like you've kind of given them the option to engage with you. And like, it's kind of brutal. Like I've done a crappy job here, set y'all up for failure, but you're like, if you send someone this video and like, it's so mean. It's like, I saw this and thought of you. And it's not like, a cuddly bunny. It's like some fucking asshole on the internet, like shitting on people who are incapable of moving forward in life. So maybe we need a more compassionate approach. Okay. I love this question. Bibor is asking, I listened to all of your lectures and I love the message, but I can't get myself to change even though I know what to do. What is holding me back? Okay. So I feel like there's one of these memes where it's like, so if you listen to all of my lectures and you can't change, and then you ask me a question, what is wrong with me? What is holding myself back? I think the problem is that you are not asking yourself that question in the right way.
Which hero
Right?
do
Because
you
you
think
sought
wanna be
answers
today?
from the outside, and none of them seem to track. They don't create the behavioral change. So I think really the right step there is to examine yourself and to see
Now,
for something that
who am I gonna
works,
banish
what
from this
makes it
match?
impossible for me to apply. And here's how you know when you find the right answer. When you can write a sophisticated amount about why you can't apply it. So you'll say, I don't know, I just can't apply it. I just watch it and then I just watch something else. So there's something really insidious about self-help content. Is that when you watch one of my lectures, your brain, the itch of progress gets scratched by watching this lecture. But that's not I mean, it's progress up to a point. So you'll feel satisfied. You'll feel like you've learned something. Most people, when they finish watching a lecture, aren't like, okay, I'm going to apply it right now. They usually take a break because it's cognitively intense.
Pick your hero or villain. I'm not judging.
So this is one of the reasons, by the way, we made like coaching.
I'm Luna Snow. Like
And
the
actually, maybe
moon,
now is a good
I
time
shine
to
in
show y'all
darkness.
something else that we're building. So for those of y'all that watch a lot of stuff, but don't actually apply things, right? So we talk a lot about meditation. I want to show y'all something. Okay, go.
Before you attack, get ready.
Hold on, I gotta do this.
The actual Magneto. Wow.
Should I know who you are?
No, but you should know magnetism doesn't work on super cool materials. Guess what I can do?
So we recognize, so this is what we're trying to build. Okay, there's a bunch of people on the internet who watch a lot of our
Battle starts in
stuff,
5, 4,
especially things like meditation
3,
stuff. Oh
2,
god.
1. All you need to do is capture the
And then they
mission
don't
area.
actually,
Got it?
Just as I
they don't actually do it. So we're,
shall wield a weapon.
instead of asking you to take responsibility for your life, we're doing it for you. Go ahead, Brandon. Testing?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, you're super loud. Hold on a second. Someone start a call. Here we go.
Nice deep freeze.
Missionary area is yours to capture now.
Okay, count to 10 for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, should be good enough. Okay, so what you got for us?
All right, so this is our feature or new feature that'll be coming out soon in the next couple weeks. We'll probably preview it next week, but this is meditation tracks. So this is built for essentially users and people who want to learn to meditate but struggle to start and maintain a consistent meditation practice. Whether or not because you're overwhelmed, you kind of like lack confidence in technique, you don't know how to progress from beginner to an advanced meditation, or how to like use meditation to accomplish specific goals. This is kind of like a guided practice and a guided method of like how do you get from being a complete noob in meditation to really utilizing it daily and understanding, you know, how do I use it and apply it in my daily life.
Okay, so what do I click? Can I click on this?
Yeah, you can click on anything in here, beginner track all the way through. I think they'll all go to the right meditations. I think it's
I-
extreme delay, so I'm not sure what you're clicking on yet right now.
Yeah, so since I clicked on the intermediate track. So the way that this is divided is there's like beginner stuff, there's intermediate stuff, and there's advanced stuff.
Right.
And then there's also topic focused stuff. So as we build this out right now, it happens that the emotional processing stuff has more advanced techniques. The focus and impulse control stuff is like intermediate. So there's day 1, day 2. So it's kind of like a meditation program. Does it track what I've done, Trinian?
Yes, so this does do some tracking. It'll track weekly progress. It'll track number of sessions you do in a week. It'll track the amount of time that you meditate. So really, it's supposed to help make sure you have the tools to understand, you know, what are you doing week to week, day to day, in order to achieve this goal, and then also it'll track just like overall like how much are you meditating.
This is cool.
I think all the tracks for the beginner track are implemented, so if you want to just like go on the beginner track page, you can click through those meditations there.
There's a scientific reference here on Trataka and cognitive function. That's cool.
Yeah, it was cited by you. I think you approved the citation.
I don't remember that, but
All I
okay.
ever wanted
So
to do
the
was
beginner
sing
track you
right.
said works, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so for those of y'all, we just got a question. The reason I called you kind of abruptly is because we got a question in chat by someone who's like, I watch all your videos,
30
but I never
seconds
do
before you
anything.
attack.
And
Get
so
ready.
we're focused on, and I think we realize that because we're you,
Eddie,
chat.
I guess we're doing the team up thing again.
We're also degenerates who, end up playing video games instead of doing things like
Not
meditating.
as long as you keep that big
Anything
nasty
else
tongue
that
of
you
yours
kind of want to
far away
mention?
from me.
Really, so this feature is going to be available to all users who either own the guide, so the Dr. K's Guide to Mental Health or meditation track there, and then also will be available to tier 2 members on Circle,
Okay.
so our community members there. Really, like the goal is just to get you like people into meditation, just to, like how do you start building a meditation routine. Like it starts very simple, just one meditation for like 3 to 5 minutes a day, and it just keeps building on that every single day until you're doing upwards of 15 to 20 minutes of meditation at the end of the week, or at 5 weeks. So,
So-
1 month you can really build a meditation practice and get things started.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming.
Capture now.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Put on a show.
So, Trinian has been with us like from year 1 of HG. And I think he was one of the first 5 people on our team. He's still with us. And we're trying to build stuff, right? So I think like right now there's a problem. We're going to continue making lectures and stuff. That's the one part. Right, it does help. But as someone in chat pointed out, like
Someone needs a
I don't
snowball
actually
in the face.
do anything sometimes. So for those of y'all that are like, if you struggle with any of the problems that we've talked about today, basically like meditation is effective for all of us. But meditating is hard, right? So meditating consistently is hard. That's why we build stuff like this, because we're sort of recognizing there are a couple of like challenges in our community, which 5 years in, let me just show y'all something. Like
Capture the mission
5
area.
years in, let's see. Yeah. So like 5 years in, like some people are making progress. So I saw this post. I spoke with Dr. K 3 years ago, and now I'm considering a career in mental health. And it's like I did very well in undergrad. What? Right? So like this person, I guess we talked when they were 20 and in university, and like now they're like considering a career in medicine.
Nice deep freeze.
And so they're still looking for guidance and stuff. But like some people, really do change their lives, which is great. And so we're going to continue offering stuff like that. But some people struggle to make more change. And so this is where we are trying to figure out how we can help y'all better. So what can we do to help y'all actually stick with a plan, create a plan? We're running into other problems because our resources are now so vast. And I don't say that out of ego. I mean, like, literally, we have over 1,000 videos on our YouTube channel. So it's like if you're finding information, we also rolled out an interesting thing, like an alpha pilot of an AI over on the membership side that is not like a coach and will not talk to you about your feelings, but will scan our content if you have a question and direct you to the appropriate timestamp and video. So we're trying to build resources like that because there's a lot of good stuff. Like I think this stream is a great example where there are a lot of excellent questions. There's one question that was not related to Puer Eternus at all, which is how do I deal with confrontation? But that lives on a stream somewhere and then disappears into the ether and no one knows how to find it. But it was the reason why I answered the question is because it's the most upvoted question. So over the last 5 years of streaming, almost 6 years of streaming, I've answered all kinds of random questions that are in all kinds of random places that may be helpful to you. So we're trying to build these kinds of tools that will help y'all get more and hopefully improve your life more. And for those of y'all that have financially supported us, like, that's what gives us the budget to build things like this. So thank you very much. As much as I would like to be your traditional influencer and drive a very expensive car and, you know, fly around and whatever other kinds of things I haven't mentioned,
There they are.
I still work
Again!
to help pay my bills. I have a side hustle
Again!
and a full-time job.
Again!
So, and like, that's okay, right? So like, with the resources that we get from y'all, we try to use to build things for y'all. We started Healthy Gamer about 5-6 years ago. And, you know, we started with a team of like me, and then we had one person, and then Trinian was one of our first 5, and now we have a team of like somewhere between 30 and 200. 150 of which are coaches, and like 30 people who like work directly for Healthy Gamer,
Like the moon.
and then some contractors and stuff too. So
30
like,
seconds before you
and
attack.
we're doing
Get
more.
ready.
Like, that's the goal, because these problems are not solved yet.
A bow?
And until they're
Really?
solved, we're gonna
Ain't
keep
that a
working
bit
at it.
outdated, pal?
So let us
It's
know
done
what
just
works
fine
for
me
you.
so far. Wire band in
Let
the
us know
closet.
what's helpful to you.
I've
Let
got a
us know what
chronometric
y'all
field
need,
generator that might make you change
and
your
we will
mind.
do our
I'm
best
open,
to try
but
to
only if it
provide
fits on an arrowhead.
whatever y'all need
battle
at
starts in
hopefully
5,
prices that
4,
y'all can afford. And we
3,
totally recognize
2,
that part of the
1.
reason we still continue to make
All you
a
need
ton
to
of
do
free
is
stuff
capture
is
the
because we
mission
know that a
area.
lot of people
Got
are
it?
not in financial situations
What's
where,
wrong with purple? I like
you know, they have a whole lot of disposable income, because, you know, 5-star whatever shit in gotcha games ain't gonna pay for themselves. And so, you know, we just don't have a whole lot of money for mental health stuff. We're just like, fair enough, like, we get you, man. It's okay. We'll build it for free.
I found one of our
And then some
crates.
things, unfortunately, do cost a lot of money, and so we sometimes do have paid services and things like that. And those of y'all that have supported us with that, thank you so much, because that's what allows us to continue to build things. So I hope today's lecture was helpful. We're going to consider doing a part 2 that may be over on the membership side that goes into more details about other like aspects of Pure Eternus. Hey,
By the eye of
Snowball fight.
yeah, I think I said that. Yeah, like, we can't build this stuff unless you guys support us. And I don't know if y'all remember, but, you know, like, back when we started, I mean, this was, I want to show y'all.
Capture the mission area.
Let's look at,
Light doesn't dispel darkness.
I want to show y'all.
It helps me see the darkness and face
So,
it.
like, I don't know if y'all remember, but this is where we started. Like, look at this. And now, look at this. Like, this is why. Right? We've come a really long way. And we're here because of you. My contribution is the same. Dude in front of a camera, blabbing. Dude in front of a camera, blabbing. My contribution has not changed. Like, all this stuff, this is, like, look at this. This is cool, man. Like, look at this.
Your team's capture progress has passed the halfway
Like,
point.
this is a real, like what on earth? Oh, you guys can't see the content library. Like,
My time to shine.
bro, like, look at this. Like, there's quests, there's comments, roots of tired stuff, like, there's summaries,
My time to shine.
medium quest, advanced quest, so, like what?
Us against the world.
What? Track your emotions, meditation programs, like coaching, guide, like, right? Like, y'all remember this? Like, this is cool, man. And then we built this, and then we built all these things, and then people were like, it's too hard to navigate. So we're like, okay, fine. Oh, no. No.
Well, you can't expect to win them all.
No. We built it. Can't you tell, chat? I can't click the play button. Quiet. Meditation index. Right? There's a meditation index. There's like a glossary. So Dr. K says a weird word. Grahastha ashram. Kava. Piper. Like, there's herbs in here. And SRI, serotonin reuptake inhibitor, serotonin syndrome. Like, this is wild, dude. And this is where we started. Sorry. And, like, we have mods in chat. We've got, like, this Slido thing that people can upvote questions without Dr. K, like, spending 15 minutes, like, writing out a poll, which then expires. And then, like, now we're dual streaming, so if we have a poll, we have to, like, duplicate the poll, and then y'all are sitting around for a long-ass time. Right, this is cool, man. So thank you guys very much. I mean, like, I quit my job. I mean, I didn't quit my job, but I quit my job. I still work. But, and it's like, I can pay my bills because of Healthy Gamer. And I still work on the side, but, and it's like, so then I can devote myself to doing this. And it's, you know, we've got all kinds of stuff coming down the pipeline. Like, there's some good stuff coming down the pipeline. Like, we're working harder, and there are more of us than ever before. And, like, we're going to figure this shit out. And I kid you not. I mean, I know everyone was, like, hyped about the dating app. Like, maybe, really, we'll do it. Like, I don't know. Like, but I don't know if y'all get this. Like, you guys understand how crazy this is?
Now,
We have the infrastructure in place to potentially build. Like, that is within reach. It is not a fantasy. We already have a coaching program. Can we modify? We have creator coaching. We have career coaching. Could we develop a dating coaching? Could we combine dating coaching with something like this? That where you've got, you know, like a profile that has like different features of like what you've completed and like meditation progress and stuff like that. Like, I mean, like, I don't think it's like that far away. I mean, is it far away? Yes. Because even building something like a, you know, a very simple feature for those of y'all that are programmers, you know, building something like an index is like, you know, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands. I don't know how much it costs. So it's still far. I'm not saying we're going to do it, but it's like we have some of these infrastructures in place. And by the way, that's why we build things in this way. So our team is really great. I don't understand this stuff. But, you know, they build a back-end architecture that, and also, like, people from our community, like Tapoosh, you guys, like, hang around on Discord. I think Tapoosh hangs around on Discord. Tapoosh sent me Path of Archra, or whatever. Like, this is awesome. Our dev team is great.
Round one.
And, you know, like, they build stuff with, like, in mind of, like, building bigger and better things. And this is like 5 years of financial support that gets us this far. And we're going to keep going. So thank you guys very much for like joining me on this wild ride. And we started off like this is this little baby Dr. K. This is Puer Eternus Dr. K. And then we made decisions and closed a lot of doors. And I quit my job and stopped being faculty at Harvard Medical School. Closed a big door and left
Battle
academia.
starts in 5, 4, 3, 2,
Was going to start
1.
working at Harvard Business School too.
You have to stop them
Close
from securing
that
the
door.
mission area.
So life is about closing doors and giving shit up. But even as you do that, thankfully, when I did that, y'all had my back. And we have done our best to have your back. And when that happens, instead of living in a fantasy, we create a reality that is worth living. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much, and we will see y'all on Monday over on the membership side with, I know it's great, we've accomplished so much here at Healthy Gamer. Wait till y'all see the more successful conversion.
Anyone willing to help?
Another arc destroyed.
Whoa! Fuck.
This is real firepower!
I will have my revenge for that.
I would knit the dimensions back together if it were within my power.
Floating on steel will power. Here come our next victims.
Pentagram of Paras.
Berserker!
I am strengthened for battle. Leave me, darkness! They will be good medicine.
Fantastic!
Only 60 seconds left.
Oh god. Fuck.
An opportunity for combat.
Force first.
The mystic arts won't fail me
You
again.
need to stop that vehicle in its tracks. Better stop that vehicle!
Destroy it.
I am strengthened.
Nope, go back.
The Odins. I'm barely harmed.
By the shades of the Seraphim, I return.
Better stop that vehicle! There's still a chance to stop them!
The moon haunts you!
Twas but a stretch. By the
They hit a
shades of the
checkpoint.
Seraphim,
Now
I
might be a good
return.
time to stop them.
Why am I still here? I already confessed to everything. Case has been reviewed. You're free to go. I violated at least
As bad as things get, I tried to stay positive.
Better stop that vehicle!
Thanks so much.
This is real firepower!
Snowball fight.
battlefield ready again.
It's now or never. Stop them.
Why would I need healing?
Better stop that vehicle.
Right there. All symbolize life. Therefore, I destroy them. Be strong together.
Don't give them another inch. Or else.
A nice deep freeze. Snowball fight. Take your squirrels back to a tree. That one hurts. I like the cold. Thanks so much.
Only 60 seconds left.
It's okay. Admit it. You need me.
Caution, friend.
Onks symbolize life. Therefore, I destroy them.
You stop them in their tracks.
Here they come. Leave them to Khonshu!
Down to 30 seconds.
The moon haunts you!
I'm making a comeback.
The final 10 seconds.
Fantastic!
Keep fighting until we have a winner.
I am ready to put on a show. You're one to protect your rear. Why would I need healing? I like the cold. I was worried.
Leave them to Khonshu!
The current score is 0-2. Time to switch things up, including which side you're on.
I'm Luna Snow. Like the moon, I shine in darkness.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one. Round 2,
I
go!
always loved my powers, but now I think they're great.
Hail, friend.
There's no dust on it because this isn't the first time we've done this. What? I call this one Moonspiracy.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
This is the place to watch.
What manner of creature are you? Strange allies this war has brought together.
Realize how ridiculous that sounds.
Yeah, pretty crazy story. Are you serious? Half the crap we've seen? And you think that sounds crazy? I've been to 300 versions of Earth's moon, including this one, and I've never seen signs of a
The
regular
battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Tells me this is a good day to have a healing factor. Look who just
That one hurts. I suck. Enemies are not truly on me. I was worried. I like the cold. Snowball fight. I found one of our critics.
appreciate the boost.
Destroy the net. I suck.
so much. Hold still. I'm trying to help. There they are.
Us against the world!
That one hurts. I am ready to put on a show. Why would I need healing? Let's start in a quick. Let's go. It's spider time! I
am Asgard's might!
This
is real firepower!
Thanks so much. Grow up. Thanks.
Berserker!
A nice deep freeze. An opportunity for combat. Snowball fight. Healing. Why would I need healing? What can I say? Star power.
My deepest gratitude. My deepest gratitude.
Help get that vehicle to its destination.
Holy creatures, when I was welcomed you into my own
If Dracula is more than only blue, hell would never see another soul. Is that true?
It's okay. I did it. You need me. Snowball fight. I found one of our predators. I was worried. Be your best self. Get ready. Here comes that best. I suck. I am ready to put on a show.
real firepower!
Careful, Ty. The spiders are cute, but deadly. Goodbye, Oxenlips. It's spider time! Us against the world! Be your best self. I feel tough.
Try and hurt me now. The light force is getting stronger.
How's it going? What a sight out there! Hey yo! Better than my music.
That's it! Don't let anything stand in your way! So close! Your big chance! How? You're frozen! Hold still! You're trying to help! I am ready to put on a show! Down to 30 seconds!
The moon!
I like the cold.
Armed and dangerous!
All the way from Kansas.
Berserker!
We'll have to keep fighting until we have a winner. Final score: 3, 2, 2. Another epic victory! Big win!
Wait, are we on Vincenulon 9 or Vincenulon 7? Oh, that's clever, Morty, but I don't use color to sort things because I'm not a mouse in a European children's book. Why are all those pink ones by the letter? Shit, that was close. Captain Scott, we just life for the uprising. Yeah. Really makes you think, huh, Morty? You should never take things for granted. What? Just saying, life's short. You shouldn't take things for granted. Are you saying granted? Yeah. It's granted! With a D! Take things for granted! Did you actually think it was... Jesus Christ, Rick! I bet that really blows your mind. Yeah, it's kinda crazy. You piece of shit! You're a fucking asshole, Rick! Oh, take it easy, Morty. Come on, just relax. I'm not gonna fucking relax. Come here. Let go of me, you little bitch. Take that. What's going on? Where am I? Who am I? I think I'm an adolescent boy. Huh. And I'm an elderly man. And we appear to be in some kind of secret, confined space. Yeah, don't look at me like that. For all we know, you could be the fucking weirdo. Huh. These things are obviously storage units, and since we can't remember what went wrong, my guess is that the technology involves memory, and that this thing on your head is designed to... Tell us the code, jack-off! It's pointless. He's stonewalling. Rick, if we don't unlock those vaccines, Earth dies! You know, it might be time to step up your interrogation. Not sure what you're implying, Maureen, but some lines I don't cross. You know, I crossed every line I had when this bastard tried to kill Jessica! Okay. See those two fleshy sacks under his chin, Morty? Grab them. Now, twist. Give us the codes, man. Twist harder, Morty. Harder. Okay, let go. Who wants to make a deal? Codes now. Half after you finish.
So what you're saying is that we need.
Finish what? You know, I thought I was torturing him. But when this disappoints you, do I tell him we don't have a deal, Morty? Because if we can kill our enemies, but we can't jack them off, then how are we better than them? Well, what did you find out? We're partners, I guess. And we fight aliens, like Men in Black. Men in Black. I have Men in Black 2 in here. So
Which hero do you think you want to be today?
not quite. It's basically an endless string of callbacks. All right, save it for
Before you all hit that join button, I've got some awesome news. We built our own platform to optimize the membership experience at members.healthygamer.gg. If you join as a healthy gamer, the first thing that you'll
From this match.
I'm familiar with the bubble hoarding. I also dabble in precision, and if you think you can even approach it with your sad naked caveman eyeball and a bubble of fucking air, you're the reason this species is a failure, and it makes me angry. Drunk. Put up a shelf. Put up a shelf. You want to experience true level? Do you? Yes.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
Okay, lights on. So,
Round one, go!
light switch clicks. What do you mean? I feel like the three sounds I heard could be explained by an initial erroneous flipping of the switch on the right, followed by a hasty corrective flipping of the requested switch, then, during the result of darkness and silence, the third sheet
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
switch. Is my assessment accurate? Yeah, that's basically how it all shaked out. Sorry.
push. Welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Dr. Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I am a medical doctor, nothing I discuss on stream today is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If y'all have a medical concern or question, please go see a licensed professional. So today we're going to be talking with Thor, Pirate Software, and I understand, I don't know the details, chat, but I understand that there has been some drama. I saw that there was drama. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I think we're going to be talking some about that. I mean, I don't know exactly what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about whatever Thor wants to talk about and whatever I feel like talking about. But I think that there's been some stuff that's been going on, and it kind of feels like one of these, like, elephant in the room situations where if we just, like, pretend nothing happened, it feels, like, super awkward. But I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I don't really follow, like, streamer drama very much. But yeah, whatever happens. So we're gonna see. We're gonna just talk. So I really enjoy talking to Thor. We've talked to him a couple of times before. It's usually been a great conversation that people have enjoyed. I understand that a lot of people are unhappy with him, more unhappy. So we're gonna just figure out what's up with that. As always, we are, we try to be like compassionate and understanding. That doesn't necessarily mean we're non-judgmental, right? So that's not one of our key values, but our values are to be authentic and compassionate and recognize that, like, people sometimes struggle, sometimes make mistakes, sometimes have stuff going on. So we try to be as, like, understanding of that as we can. And I'd ask y'all to be, like, as understanding as we can. Before we hop in with Thor, and we just do that for everybody, right? It's not like he's getting special treatment. That's just what we do here. So we've added, we have a quick update to our Mental Health Awareness Month calendar. So I'm going to just show you all this real quick. So we did Mr. Who's the Boss yesterday. Really loved that stream. Thor, Pirate Software is today. We're adding one memberships lecture for those of you that don't know, October 2023, we started HD memberships, which are like deep dives into a lot of topics that people in the community want. So things like ego, discipline, emotions, stuff like that. And these are usually things that would not work very well on the algorithm, so I don't know if this kind of makes sense, but like if you look at YouTube, not everyone, or very few people are looking for like people who are really wanting to understand a topic very deeply and or like really want to get into it and understand it at a high level. Those videos sometimes don't perform well, right? So if you look at like what performs well, it's usually like 8 to 12 minute segments on something. So you can look at channels like the most successful channels on YouTube, like Kurtzon, they're an awesome channel. They make like roughly 10-minute videos. So if you'll want deep dives into topics, we're going to be focusing on how to build a social circle, deep dive into resilience. And the edition that we have is Breaking Through Overwhelm with Dr. Ali Matu. So Ali Matu is also he's a psychologist, YouTube creator who specializes in anxiety disorders. We've gotten really positive feedback about him. So that's going to be this Thursday. And then, as usual, we have plenty of content over just regular content that we've got stacked. So we've got interviews every Thursday, and then on Fridays we're going to be doing like more traditional HD streams, which can also be like deep dives into stuff. But the World on Fire stream next Friday is going to be all about, okay, so like there's a lot of stuff going wrong in the world today. How do we manage? How do we cope? How do we thrive even? Apparently there's like, people have been preparing voicemails for me to answer. There's going to be a debunking terrible relationship advice, and then this is one of my favorite ideas. We'll see how this goes. Maybe this will be a mess. But Doctor versus AI, which we'll share more details about later. A couple of other quick announcements before we hop in. We have an awesome community challenge going on right now in May. So we usually do this like every May, where we'll have like a pretty big community challenge. And so this one is pretty cool. So it's in case of crash out, break glass. So it's actually like a resilience challenge. So the whole point of this month's community challenge, which y'all can, it's absolutely free, y'all can join on Discord, is we're going to be like, in case of emergency, break the glass. So in case of the world falling apart, like what are the skills that you need to develop? How do you cope? So there's going to be a community challenge where people will like, we'll give y'all tasks and stuff like that. In the past, we've done things like touch grass challenges, which was awesome, which is like people going out and like doing things in the world. So things like meditating in a park, like meeting up with friends. One of my favorite things from, I think, the Touch Grass Challenge was like making a fresh beverage with like some kind of juice. So like people would make like smoothies and stuff like that. So it's just like, it's basically an excuse for y'all to do the things that you should be doing, kind of made in a gamified format that's like fun for all of us to do together. So y'all should definitely check that out. And then another kind of quick, really quick kind of interesting announcement. So I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but sometimes we here at Healthy Gamer do things that are not streaming. And I know that sounds weird. It's like, oh my god, how are we, why are we doing things besides streaming? Why aren't we just like streaming content all the time? Just stream more. So I know it's crazy, but we believe that managing the mental health crisis that we're living in today may require a little bit more than watching things on the internet. So about 5 years ago, we developed a coaching program. Our initial pilot study of the coaching program was like 1,500 people, showed really great outcomes. It's something that we talk about quite a bit. Some of y'all are tired about hearing about it, but the reason that we do it, and the reason that we do many of the things that we do, like, you know, so this past year we advocated for like $2 billion. So we went to Washington, D.C. and advocated for $2 billion of additional funding for training and addiction workforce. So we realized, like, hey, addiction is a problem. And can Dr. K make videos about it on the internet? Absolutely. But sometimes videos on the internet may not be as effective, or may not be sufficiently effective as going to the federal government of the United States and saying, like, hey, we need, like, it's hard to find a therapist. Therapists are incredibly expensive. They have really long wait times. People are struggling with addiction. Can y'all please give $2 billion for the training of an additional addiction workforce? So we do a lot of stuff at Healthy Gamer. And we developed this coaching program. Coaching works great. We believe in coaching because it's using the peer support model and stuff like that. It basically is working with someone to help you figure out appropriate goals, achieve those goals in a limited time period. That's really the big advantage. So if you're on the DIY track, the problem is we procrastinate. The key thing about coaching, though, that we're super excited about now is that we have gotten our curriculum certified. So I want to just show you all. So this is coaching. So if you guys have questions about coaching, we've got info here. But we started something called the Healthy Gamer Institute. So that's where, people will sometimes ask us, hey, where can we find a therapist like you, Dr. K? Or people will say, hey, I struggle a lot with video game addiction or pornography addiction. I went to see a therapist and they didn't understand what I was talking about. So we started the AC Institute maybe a couple of years ago. It's this is IRL stuff, so it moves slowly. So, and then we actually have recently gotten our coaching program certified by NBHWC, which is the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching. So this means that there's basically anyone, we don't have to get too much into this, but basically anyone can do coaching. It's not a licensed profession. So how do you determine whether the coach that you have is a good coach or just someone who just says they're a coach? So that's what some of these third-party certification programs are about, and we actually just got awarded the certification, which is great. So that basically means it's someone has looked at our curriculum and said, hey, you guys have, your curriculum meets the minimum requirements to be good. So it's a good thing. I know it's kind of outside of people's scope, but anyway, just wanted to share that with y'all. If y'all are interested in becoming a coach, by the way, learning coaching, y'all can sign up. I think HGI will start having cohorts soon, so y'all can sign up over there if y'all want to learn coaching. So let's hop in with Thorlord. Okay. Let me see where Pyrat. I call Pyrat. Right.
I'm not the type who fades quietly into the background.
Click.
It feels good to step outside my
Hello.
bubble every now and then.
Oh, weird. Hold on. I gotta change this too. Let me turn it.
Where did this go?
Okay.
Virtual campus.
Virtual camera. Give me a second. There we go. Oh. Hold on.
For some reason, this is showing the big you. And I don't know why.
Okay.
No,
I think I got mine. Did we do it? Okay.
Kind of.
Okay, sweet.
I'm trying to fix it on my end.
Okay, well, it's working for me, so that's all that matters in life.
Is that how it goes?
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Isn't that what you've learned from being on the internet recently?
Yeah, definitely. That's how it works.
Is that if it works for someone, that's all that matters?
It's all that matters. Yep.
Yeah, so how you been, Thor?
It's been rough.
Yeah, I hear that. So I don't really follow much of, internet drama. So, are you want to talk about what's been going on, or you want to not talk? Oh, which is totally fine.
Start.
What's going on?
I think recently I've actually been dealing with, so I guess we can start with that.
Okay.
We had, and this kind of ties back into it too. So we had 2 deaths in the rest of this last week, which is, I'm finding, because we're at about 60 ferrets now, we probably around 60. We usually go down to a month because it's a rescue, and that's kind of how it works. You get animals that are really messed up.
I don't give up so
bad,
easily.
Bad position, that's kind of how it goes. And I'm finding that I can't emotionally connect with every animal. You just can't do it. It's not humanly possible to do that because you're going to lose them, and you can't, absorb that at all times. It's not, a healthy thing to do. And I've been going through that through, the last couple of weeks. The last one really messed me up because it was Ghost, and Ghost is she was one of the first rescue ferrets, and this animal was bad. When I went to go pick her up, she was one of the first ones that I went to go pick up. Normally they give you a carrier, and the person's all excited and I'm really sorry, I feel bad, You take those, how they're doing it. It's usually the person's this one, I go to the house. Here to pick her up. And this person just did this. Handed this ferret to me. It's covered, like just feces all over the body. And I'm like, do you have like a carrier? And they're like, nah.
I don't give up so easily.
And emaciated, covered in feces, ear mites, visible ear mites. It was awful, and it was just she's scratching herself. She had, like, it was bad.
Oh my god.
Take her to the vet, and you find that she is deeply afraid of a man. She can't move. Anytime you put her near one, she freezes, and then she bites the knee, which is not a normal response for an animal. It's like very clearly something is wrong. It's a bit of an abusive household situation. You've never seen that. I worked for, I want to say, God, it's like 2 years. It had to be like 2 years of working
No
with
worries,
this
I've got your back.
trying to get her to do it. She never would do it. She was just so sweet, and I used to take her away.
How did she respond to humans?
Great. Totally fine with humans. She was afraid of being picked up at first,
Come on.
which is kind of common because people don't know how to handle them and then they get afraid of things. It's a normal thing. But she's fine with humans. She was terrified of animals. Very strange. And it's weird, especially with being afraid of other things. It's very odd. So, it's probably a neglect situation. She's just still is super sad. So, but a couple of weeks ago, she suddenly started coughing, and she had Hodgkin-like lymphomas, which is hyper-aggressive cancer of the liver bacteria. There's no way. Couldn't save them. Couldn't do anything. We normally get months for that, but and going into like how that ties in with stuff is we've got people that are really pissed off at me over like World of Warcraft from about 100 days ago. It was on January 14th.
Okay.
And they're mad because I ran out of a dungeon in Hardcore WoW. Specifically because our group is wiping.
Thor, can you turn up your volume some?
Is that? I think that's as loud as it goes.
Okay.
I don't know if I can.
Yeah, let me see, because it's like
I'm almost redline.
Hello?
Tremble before
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, he's quiet, right? Yeah, so he's saying he's jacked up as high as he can go. So should I turn my volume down and just start turning up the volume? He's jacked up to 200% on Discord.
Well, that's weird. Is it your headphones?
It's clear I'm still needed here.
Okay, I can try to do that.
They're saying that I sound good on your stream.
But you sound fine to me.
Now might be a good
Let
time
me
to
see.
stop
So they're saying I find the volume is good. Okay, they're saying it's fine. So I think we fixed it. You're both low as usual. Okay, cool. Thank you, chat. I don't know. I think he sounds buttery smooth, dude.
That's super funny.
Okay.
Yeah, so this whole thing started with like World of Warcraft.
Okay.
It's part of the Synchro Only things, and you kind of meme around, you make characters, but it's hardcore. So if a character dies, you lose a friend. But it's a character. Right? So we're doing this dungeon, and always make a run. But it's kind of unfair that is we did the dungeon before that in a group, and we failed. And it was like, oh shit, everybody's running, everyone's freaking out, and we all made it out alive on that one. So we decided to go back in. The group that falls apart like that, you probably shouldn't do it again. But we went back in, and on this one, a pose made its way through there. We weren't ready for it. And then all of us, like every single one of us did, including me. And I talked about it online for it. But there was a pinnacle moment where one of the guys said, so we all ran. Because you're letting a guy be a shotgun. And then as I ran, he goes, why are you running to me? And I'm like, I could be a dick right now and be like, you told us to run, right? I could just like reflect that, and be like, what are you talking about? Like, you did that. And I was like, what do you want me to do for you? Right. And I said, what do you want me to do for you? Look at the map. Because it was mostly And I tried to make like kind of a light of the situation, and I was mostly irritated. It was an irritating response, a truth response, and it turned into a mess. And there's people in chat with me. So for over 100 days now, there's people that spam mana gem, and you're out of resources, and run away from the break, and so on. And the thing that's crazy about that is, tying back to the third stuff, when Ghost died, my YouTube got littered with comments saying Ghost died because she was out.
Oh my god.
That's the shit that I'm getting every day now. Because these aren't people that give a shit about World of Warcraft. They're not people that give a shit about those characters. They're not people that care about any of this stuff. They just, this kind of ties back into it too. So we had 2 deaths in the rescue this last week, which is, you know, like...
Oh.
I'm finding, because we're at about 60 ferrets now, we hover around 60, and we lose about 1 to 2 a month because it's a rescue, and that's kind of how it works. You get animals in that are really messed up, really bad position. That's just kind of how it goes. And I'm finding that I can't emotionally connect with every animal. You just can't do it. It's not humanly possible to do that because you're going to lose them, and you can't like absorb that at all times. It's not like a healthy thing to do. And I've been going through that through like the last couple of them, but the last one really messed me up because it was Ghost, and Ghost is she was one of the first rescue ferrets, and this animal was like physically abused badly originally. And when I went to go pick her up, she was like one of the first ones that I went to go pick up. Normally they'd give you like a carrier, and the person's like all excited, and they're like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. You know, I feel bad. I feel like a bad person." You talk to them about it, and then they give you the animal, and there's like crying or whatever, right? And then you take the animal, and then they want to reach out and know how they're doing and everything, because it's usually a person surrendering because they just can't take care of it. This one, I go to the house, and I'm like, "Hey, you know, I'm here to pick her up," and this person just did this, and like handed this ferret to me like this, and it's covered in shit, like just feces all over the body, and I'm like, "Do you have like a carrier?" And they're like, "Nah." And emaciated, covered in feces, ear mites, visible ear mites. It was awful, and it was just she's scratching herself. She had like it was bad.
Oh my god.
Take her to the vet, and we fix her up, and then we find that she is deeply afraid of other animals. She can't be near other ferrets at all whatsoever. Anytime you put her near one, she freezes, and then she bites them and immediately poop, which is not a normal response for a social animal. It's like very clearly something has gone wrong. She came from like some kind of an abusive household situation. We've never seen a ferret do that ever. And I worked for, I want to say, God, it's got to be, it's like 2 years now. It had to be like 2 years of working with this animal every day, trying to like get her to integrate with the others, and she never would do it. But she was just so sweet, and I just played with her every day because they need kind of social interaction. And,
how did she respond to humans?
Great. Totally fine with humans. She was afraid of being picked up at first, which is kind of common because people don't know how to handle them, and then they get afraid of hands. It's like a normal thing. But she's fine with humans. She was terrified of animals. It was very strange. And it's weird, especially with being afraid of other ferrets. It's very odd, right? So it probably a neglect situation where she was just left in a cage with another ferret, and learned to be afraid of them because it's all learned behavior. They're super social. So, but a couple of weeks ago, she suddenly started coughing, and it turned out she had Hodgkin-like lymphoma.
Okay.
Which is hyper-aggressive cancer. It killed her in about 2 weeks. There's no way.